All right, we'll continue with public comment. Again, I want to ask that we limit the public comment to the time allowed. Catherine, if you can, please.
Okay, we have Sarah Tusher is next, followed by James, and I'm really gonna be bad at your name. Bethold, thank you.
One second, where I have to figure out now. Sorry. Nope, I think I got it now. My name is Sarah Tusher. I live at 524 Oak Street. I'm also the co-president of the Forest Glen PTA, and tonight I will be speaking on behalf of the Forest Glen PTA. The Forest Glen PTA called a special meeting of our members on April 21st to conduct a vote on our PTA taking a stance for or against the proposed 12-pump 24/7 gas station at Five Corners. The Forest Glen PTA voted unanimously to officially oppose the sale of the property at 825 North Main Street to be developed as a gas station, and is urging the village trustees to reconsider the previous allowance of a special use permit to True North. The development of a gas station at this location is in direct conflict with the Illinois PTA legislative platform, Section 9A Environment, 10A Health, and 12A Safety. Forest Glen has over 600 students, including District 41's over 160 preschoolers, aged 3 to 5, and over 90 staff members. Per the Illinois PTA legislative platform, Section 9 Environment, improved legislation that will set and enforce standards and appropriate funds that are adequate to control air, water, and noise pollution and other environmental deterioration within the state. The PTA's concern at this point is that the Environmental Commission of the Village of Glen Ellen has not reviewed this proposal or plan. There has not been a village stance on the environmental impact that this project will that will affect the Forest Glen Elementary School. Section 10A Health, adequate legislative and financial support to improve the health and children and youth. Forest Glen Elementary is less than 500 feet. It is here, and this is where the lovely gas station is going to go. So we're right here, and so we're less than a village block away. Forest Glen Elementary has an open air system, meaning all air circulated throughout the school comes from the outside. Federal school siting guidelines advise against schools being close to gas stations. There's a reason for that. Studies have found that despite the health and safety guidelines that must be followed, gas stations still pose a significant health risk to neighbors and especially to children. There are high levels of benzene and hexane in areas around gas stations than compared to the levels of gasoline-related pollutants caused by normal automobile traffic. There's an increased cancer risk from benzene, a chemical found in gasoline from any gas station, and is proven to cause cancer in humans. The PTA would request a restriction of the gas station development, if it is to go through, that the underground tanks not be filled during school hours, specifically from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., as Forest Glen houses the Park District's before and after school care. The PTA would also request, under the safety issue, that the gas station development.
Without additional time ceded, I'm going to ask you to conclude. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Next
Thanks, Rep.
person, please.
Dave Massa just ceded his time to her.
Okay, I'm gonna ask that if anybody's gonna put their time in, they're gonna put their time in advance. We're going to respect everybody. We're gonna follow the rules of this public event here. So I've asked everybody to be congenial. If it was your expectation and we're being reasonable and we're respecting each other and respecting the rules that you're asking us to consider, then please be prepared to cede your time to the individual, because this is not how we want to run this hearing. for this meeting, please. So you have an additional 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. I will just summarize with the PTA would like to request the restriction of a gas station development, if it is to go through, that there be no left turn onto Main Street during the busy times of student activity. And these would be from 8 to 8:30 a.m. and 3:30 to 4 p.m. Thank you for taking not only the PTA's concerns into consideration, but all of the Village of Glen Ellen residents. And we urge the village trustees to reconsider the property at 825 North Main Street, less than 500 feet from my school, from being developed as a gas station, or at least restrict the special use permit by addressing our health and safety concerns. Thank you.
Hey folks, I'm a resident here at Glen Ellen, live over by Lake Ellen, and they were nice enough to move me up a little bit because it's past my bedtime, and I'm here to speak in behalf of seniors, hopefully. And you know, when you look at the situation, unfortunately I did not attend your prior meetings that you have for the public, and I should have. But I was told that one of the things that occurred at one of the meetings is that you folks or somebody here mentioned that there's like 4 seniors that said they wanted a gas station right here in Glen Ellen at that location because it was more convenient. Now I'm here to state that I'm perfectly capable of driving to Wheaton. There's a new Shell station opening there. It's just opened yesterday or a couple of days ago, as you gentlemen know. It's your competition. And a couple blocks further down, we have Mobil. And over on Roosevelt Road, we have a whole wealth of gas stations. We've all seen the structure going up for Mobil. That's actually in Wheaton, I guess, but it looks like it's going to be a city block long with, I don't know, many pumps. But the bottom line, what I'm saying simply is that we have enough gas stations in the area now. Plus, over on North Avenue by the expressway, they're about to tear down the bike shop there and build another major gas station right there. So, you know, economics, I think you guys have to look at, is it worthwhile for us to even open a shop here in Glen Ellen with all the competition here? You know, we can't even get anybody to go in the old Dominic's location because there's too much competition. Nobody wants to move in here because we already have too many grocery stores, and now we're going to have gas stations at every other corner. Now, you know, as I came in here tonight, I looked around and saw a number of seniors. And I'd just like to see how many of you are the seniors only, please. Raise your hand who are against this. Okay. I don't know how many are here, but that's quite a few negatives there. And I know you folks had, you know, said that you talked to 4 people and they said they wanted a gas station. Well, I think the majority of us can handle driving a few extra blocks. I look at price. You know, I go to that Shell in Wheaton or the Mobil station farther west there in Wheaton, I guess it is, or Carroll Stream. I stop on the way when I take my grandchildren to school. And that's why I want to get on earlier, by the way, because I got to go home, go to bed, get up early in the morning because my daughter's out of town. I got to take care of the grandchildren. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, David Hartzell is up now, followed by Ray Campbell.
Put that pretty cartoon of the gas station up there, that pretty picture. Please.
Anyone?
Yeah, sure. Is that it?
Sorry. Stop me. Stop. How's that?
Yeah, that's good. My name is David Hartzell. I live at 714 Meredith Place. My wife and I have lived here for 16 years. We have 2 children. that both went to Forest Glen. And anybody, Chief, you and anybody else that thinks that nobody walks to Forest Glen is out of touch. I walk my kids to school there almost every day, and I know a lot of you others did as well. And I will say the same thing that I said when I was here at the first meeting. That is, gas stations go, that's a pretty one, but it belongs on North Avenue, not on Main Street, a few hundred feet from where our kids go to school. There just isn't a case that can be made for this gas station, not based on need, not based on not based on economic impact, and not in the face of the overwhelming negatives. We just don't need a 24-hour-a-day gas station selling beer, wine, and lotto tickets on that corner next to our elementary school. This has to be the biggest bait and switch in the history of Glen Ellen, and I'm looking at all of you. 7 years ago, you told us that you wanted to spend our money, our taxpayer money, to buy this property and clean it up and get rid of that dilapidated gas station so that we could control the development here and execute on that development consistent with our economic plan, our comprehensive plan. And what have you brought us? Another gas station, 3 times the size of the last one. And just because there was a gas station there before doesn't mean that there needs to be a gas station there today. And certainly not one as overscale and overbuilt and over-designed as this. And you're putting our kids at risk. Unless you think that putting in a monstrous gas station is as benign as putting in a Dairy Queen, then you cannot say that this does not pose an unacceptable risk to the health and safety of those school children. And for what? For that? For that? For $140,000 in anticipated sales tax revenue? Fake number, by the way. Never seen any basis for that. Somebody did a calculation. I did my own calculation. 27,500 people in Glen Ellen. $140,000. That's $5 per resident. Here's my $20 for my family. Trustee McGinley, you are the president of the Hadley PTA.
Summarize,
How can
please.
you be a part of this? You have a chance to do what's right here. But if you can't acknowledge that you might have misjudged this situation, then maybe we've misjudged you. And maybe you don't deserve to be sitting up there. So do what's right. Rescind this special use permit, deny these variances, tell them to go build their gas station someplace else. We can do better
Thank
than
you.
this.
Is next, followed by Bob Imig. Thank you.
Got it. Got raised up just a little bit here. Good evening. My name is Ray Campbell. I live at 460 Raintree Court, Unit 3K in Glen Ellen. Now I'm on the other end of town from this gas station, but I'm here to speak for my neighbors that live in that area. I only want to make 2 points because I want to be brief and respect everyone's time. Number one, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. There have been 3 gas stations at this location before, it's my understanding, and they failed. And this village went and spent all kinds of money remediating that site to clean up the environment, and now what are we doing? We're talking about building a gas station there again. I am sure that if we looked hard and did some marketing, that we could find a more appropriate C2 commercial development to go into that area. None of us oppose development. We understand that we need a strong tax base. And so I would encourage, as others have, that the special use permit be rescinded, that the variances be denied, and that we look for some other venture to move into this property. My second point is the Forest Glen Elementary School. And by the way, those kids were great out there tonight. They're our leaders in the future. It really is uncomfortable to me. Number one, having someplace 500 feet from a school selling liquor, or at least beer and wine. And number two, the safety issues, which it was demonstrated tonight, the traffic studies are horribly flawed. I think in Wisconsin, I don't know if it's still the case, Wisconsin's a pretty big beer producing state, but it's my understanding that last laws that I knew in Wisconsin, that a liquor establishment could not be within 1,200 feet of a school. So, and you're putting this within 500 feet? That is going to result in just a whole host of problems. You're going to have people possibly hanging around that place, drinking, and all of those kinds of things. Now, so, in closing, I would just ask my representatives, all of you, to look into the eyes of the voters, and especially into the eyes of these young kids, and do the right thing, the responsible thing, and the only appropriate thing to do. Rescind the special use permit, deny the variances, and tell these people to go put their gas station someplace else. Thank you.
Okay, Bob is up, followed by Jill Lynn Tedford.
Okay, I'm Bob Emig, 815 Lennox Road. I came here tonight looking for 10 feet of rope, but more about that in less than 3 minutes. First, I want to say thank you to Mr. Howard and his staff and True North for taking an interest in Glen Ellen and all of their hard work. You look at empty storefronts in all little small towns like this, we all need people to take an interest in us. I wish we had some better dirt for you. To the village board, thank you for all your hard work. I feel your pain. I've been there. Usually for me, it's a plumbing project. I get involved in it. I'm gonna finish this baby. My wife says, Bob, call a plumber. Bob, call a plumber. No, I can do it, I can do it. You've tried awful hard. Since 2 months ago, you've gotten some help. You brought the citizens in to the tent, and they've given you encouragement and advice. I wish you'd listen to them. I see this project at the bottom of a 20-foot well, and we've got 10 feet of rope. And for the last 2 months, at least that I've been around, we've been trying to come up with another 10 feet of rope. And we've come up with different ideas and we can't come up with 10 feet of rope. And it's time to admit that we can't save this project because we don't have 20 feet of rope. And we got to move on. Thank you.
Okay, Jill Lynn Tedford is up, followed by Jessica Valerio.
My name is Jill Lynn Tedford, 22W533 Emerson Avenue, Glen Ellen. So, my husband and I have attended most of the meetings since March in regards to the True North gas station at Five Corners. I'm sure I can speak for many when I say, prior to this meeting, we were frustrated, disappointed, and just plain mad. Many of us witnessed this board vote in favor of the special use permit after our village planning commission unanimously rejected it. We have listened as village architects and planners reported this project is too big for this property, which by the way is not in Ms. Hulsberg's report of the situation. We listened and continue to listen to our townspeople providing research testimony regarding health and safety concerns for us and our children. And yet, we have been told we, the people of Glen Ellen, need to be more welcoming of projects. We tend to be too picky, and we have to start accepting change now. Well, excuse me, but no, not this project. No opening our arms to a 24/7, 12-pump gas station in a residential area less than 500 feet from Forest Glen Elementary School. No saying yes to a few extra dollars at the expense of our neighbors and at the expense of our children's health and safety. On the Village Board website, as other people have mentioned, it states the board is elected to make decisions to maintain and enhance the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the Village of Glen Ellen. Nowhere does it say the board should make decisions based solely on the possibility of financial gain, disregarding the health and safety of the people in our community. Please do what you were elected to do. Say no to 24/7, say no to 12 pumps, say no to a dangerous left turn onto Main, and say no to this gas station as we should have done back in March. I once again say to True North and to this board, I will never, ever use this gas station. And
Please respect her time.
I encourage every person in the room on the petition in Forest Glen PTA to refuse to be a customer of this gas station and continue to spread the word. Because if you, our village board, won't watch out for our health and safety, well, we will. Thank you.
Jessica Valerio is up, followed by Jessica Como. Jessica Valerio has had Mary Bush and Jamie Doherty cede her time.
Do I keep this?
Hi, I'm Jessica Pomeriter Valerio. I live on 830 Lenox Road. I was born and raised here. My kids go to Forest Glen, and I went to Forest Glen. I just wanted to let everyone know that's a part of the No Gas Station group that we made the CBS News tonight. So that was exciting. Can I use this? Sorry that it's on my phone. I just heard a couple things here that I wanted to. Okay. I heard say that there was no risk of benzene. And I just found this. This is 2015. This was in a Denver newspaper. And as you can see, oh, sorry, you can't see. As you can see at the bottom, it's actually meters. And the cancer risk goes up quite a bit. And I also was listening to that 24 hours is not, if you have somebody there, there'll be less crime. And this is from, show you where it's from, so you know I make it up. The Southern States Insurance, and it says the following is a list of exposures your business faces on a daily basis and the ways to reduce potential crime. And this is about gas stations and convenience stores. Number 1 is hours of operation. Hours of operation factor into a store's crime, especially between the hours of 2 to 5. Your insurance rates go up if you're open 24 hours. Oh, and to that traffic study. So here is, I'm going to go back out. Let's see how we do that. Should be better at this. I know. Oh, my. So here's Forest Glen Elementary. Here's this big old gas station. And you can just picture little Olive riding her bike down St. Charles Road, turning left on Main. And with this increased traffic that we hear is 40% of an increase, the danger that this little girl is going to see. My 3rd grader is 9 years old. He rides his bike to school alone, and he rides home alone for after school. There's also, in the summer and the spring months, I live on St. Charles Road and Lenox Road, and a number of junior high kids ride their bikes to Ackerman for sports and camps that are going on all spring and summer long, and they throw their garbage over my fence. So I would just urge no 24/7, remove one of the pumps. Of course, I'm completely against this project, but if we can at least make it fit the footprint a little better, maybe we could deal with it a little better. And I just really think that this does not fit into the values of our community, and because we have such a rich historical culture here, and that is where the pioneers settled, and I wouldn't like to see it still not be ruined by this gigantic gas station. Thank you.
Karen Campbell.
My name's Jessica Como. I live at 771 Forest Avenue. And in the village packet tonight, you had letters of opposition from the residents, and I personally wrote 4. None of those were in there. And what worries me about that is I know there are more letters, and you guys are not being honest or transparent with the community, and I don't know where that goes, where that ends, where that stops. I also started the petition. We have, 1,150 signatures and over 380 comments, and I'm going to read some of those comments tonight to you, and they go something like this. This cannot be allowed to happen. No, no, no. Totally unnecessary and will hurt home values in the neighborhood. Please keep the integrity of Glen Ellen. The school in which I work in is right on this corner. Putting a gas station there would put the safety of these kids at a huge risk. Horrible. It's right across from a school. Please keep our kids safe. Absolutely not. We do not want this bright, toxic, noisy business this close to a quiet neighborhood. Please do not do this to our community. This is ridiculous. It's not what our town needs on this corner. All 3 gas stations in the past have had to close. We don't need another one. Whatever is eventually built here should set the tone. It should be a structure that anyone driving by or visiting Glen Ellen will welcome, invite, and make people want to come back to Glen Ellen. I've been a Glen Ellen resident since 1970. There's absolutely no good reason to approve a gas station at 5 Corners. I was born and raised in Glen Ellen, and I'm still here. No need for a gas station at 5 Corners for all the other reasons stated. My husband and I are both 4th-generation Glen Elleners, and we feel that the building of this gas station is a bad idea, too close to homes, streets, and schools. I am 100% against this and would never have purchased a home anywhere near it. Haven't we learned anything from the past? It took 10 years to clean up this mess. I attended the last board meeting where they approved the gas station plans. They didn't really care what all the people said. Our neighbors and residents who live here only had 3 minutes to speak. The True North folks had all the time they wanted. They appear to be playing fast and loose with zoning policies. I wonder why. Sad. Makes no sense to me. Buy the land, clean it up, and sell it for less than the cost of the land. As a resident of Glen Ellen, 59 years, and a business owner, I've learned to make decisions based on protecting the principles of this unique community, and I am not to be swayed by desires to create new revenue streams. This is a complete letdown of local governance. No special permit should be used against the united will of neighboring people. And for me personally, I don't know how this school is not #1 priority for this entire thing. It is way too close to our school, and it's terrible. It shouldn't happen.
Karen Campbell is next, and she will be followed by Don Carlson.
My name is Karen Campbell. I live at 460 Raintree Court, 3K, Glen Ellen. I am here tonight to stand with my neighbors to the north in opposition to this project. As somebody said, and I think it was my husband, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. How do you expect there will be a different result when 3 gas stations in the past have failed at this location? And is it a wise use of public money to have spent the money to remediate the site only to put another gas station on it? I think not. Also, there seems to be a lot of unanswered questions, as I've heard here tonight. There seems to be more questions than answers on this project, which leads me to believe that not everything was thought through as sufficiently as it needed to be. I would urge this village board to vote no on the project, vote no on the special permit, vote no on the variances, and let's put something there that will be of a benefit to the community, not a hazard to the community. Thank you.
Don Carlson is up, followed by Mark Simon.
My name is Don Carlson, and I live on 138 South Route 53, but more importantly, I work at Montessori Academy of Glen Ellen, which is located at 927 North Main Street, which is just north of this intersection. I drive through that intersection at least twice a day, and I don't see that this is a safe project to put there. This intersection is basically one of the more dangerous intersections in Glen Ellen. You don't have sight lines to be able to see road traffic traveling at 45 miles an hour. Speed limit's 40, people are going 45, maybe 50 sometimes through that light. When I'm driving west on St. Charles Road, and I have to turn left to go north to the school where I work, I stop. I make sure that no one's coming. I have a hard time seeing over that hill down to Forest Lane when I'm turning left in front of them. It's going to be the same thing if I'm in the right-hand lane going over that hill to go down further, where that driveway onto St. Charles is 7 feet below the grade of the top of the hill. You're looking at a drop-off there. You can't see it. You're traveling 45 miles an hour. You got traffic coming from the right, traffic coming from the left. You got traffic lights, and now you're going to put cars coming out of a gas station that you can't see clearly. They can't see you. That's dangerous. Dangerous. It's dangerous for the parents of my school, the community that exists there, that drive through that intersection twice a day. Now, I know your traffic people have said that's the best we can do with that property. The question isn't what is the best we can do, what works at a minimum, but what is safe, what works for the community in that way. And just, I'd like to make one other point, and that's about the 24/7 and the traffic study. I don't think there's data there, and they haven't done the data study that it is. This is a business that depends upon autos driving in and out. 24/7, where's our traffic study from 12 to 5 in the morning? Who's going to be there driving by? 60% of it's supposed to be traffic coming from that time. You know, I must say, I have driven in that intersection at midnight, at 1 o'clock in the morning. I've had to go up to the school to say, hey.
Please summarize.
Okay. I've had to go up to that, to the school at that time of night to respond to some kind of call from fire or something like that. And those roads are empty, okay? I don't see that you have the information even to make the decision on the 24/7.
Time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to set this. Okay, Mark Simon is up. Mr. Frank has ceded his time. Annie Carlson is next. Thank you.
So it'll be 6 minutes?
Yes, thank you.
All right, I'm Mark Simon representing 604 Elm. We count on the village board to keep our children and residents safe, our home values strong, and be sensitive to the aesthetics of our beloved town. We count on you to represent the majority of those who have elected you to represent them. We bought our homes behind lots which were zoned residential in this historic Lake Ellen neighborhood. Sure, we knew that there had been a failed corner gas station in the past, but we were sufficiently protected by a 100-year-old tree buffer. Show you just a visual aid. Sorry, Easter pictures. Apologize. Okay, so this is just for those of you who have not been out to the site, although I believe most of you have, really, you until you visit the site and you look at how thick these trees are and how all of these trees that we just passed by will come out for the detention pond, it's rather concerning. The petitioners' plans have always de-emphasized the presence of homes by this station in the back, when in fact, people live directly behind and to the side, and children play in the backyards. So again, for the record, I want to make sure that everyone in this room sees the lovely homes that are on Elm that have to contend with this development. This is the neighborhood that I bought into. I did not buy into this neighborhood with a big gas station 24/7 with lights ablaze behind it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bought it. I'm going to show you a couple pictures related to, Easter. This is, I want to show you this shot as I was walking my kid to school, and I noticed this. So this is going, west on St. Charles. I could not, as a driver, I think I'm an excellent driver, I could not make a left-hand turn into a station. I could not cross this safely, and I can tell you if my wife were next to me, she'd be screaming at me. So I don't know how a traffic study could determine that a left-hand turn was safe here. Also, regarding that traffic study, it was done on January 26th. I don't even walk my kid to school in January. It's too cold. So I don't think anybody would have been walking their kids to school on January 26th, but maybe today they should have done the study. I'm going to show you traffic going down the opposite direction. Again, and watch that FedEx truck as it goes down, because obviously there's a hill. I think there's a tremendous risk of somebody trying to make a left-hand turn and not really seeing the car that's coming at 40 miles down. And being a Los Angelian who doesn't know how to drive in ice, I find this very treacherous. I'm going to show you, what's my time? Okay. I'm going to show you, this is the backyard of my home. I don't understand how a dad and a son walking his kid to Montessori, it's too dangerous. I walk this. Look at the driveway. How is this father and son going to be protected from being wiped out from a car that is late for work and trying to turn in to get gas, or the opposite? This shot is chilling to me. I hope it's chilling to you. This is the opposite direction. Look at the traffic. This happened to be in the evening when we were doing our protest. Look at the backup going to Main Street. Look at people trying to get out of the 7-Eleven parking lot. This is chaos. I'm not a traffic expert, but I'm doing this. I was very, very concerned about this. Also, I went over more pictures. Sorry. I want to show you, these are, I wish that True North had these pictures. I shouldn't be the one having to go out on work time and take pictures of neighborhoods. I also want to point out that True North claims that it's a steward in its community, that it really is a good neighbor. This is in Cleveland near its stations. This is how people live with a station next door. Now, mind you, these are $44,000 to $55,000 homes, not $300,000 to $800,000 homes, but we don't deserve this. Show you another one. And another one. Look at the nice hedge. And another one. Yeah, this company doesn't show respect to its neighbors. Does that show respect? It's horrendous. And then finally, because this property is 10 feet higher than the homes behind it. I need you to recognize, I went over to the Speedway off of North Avenue that's in Lombard, and I apologize. This I took last night. So this is about 10 feet higher. So the residents have to look up at this. You can see the headlights, you can see the parking lights, which apparently the parking lot lights won't be reduced, just the canopy, I'm being told. If you feel compelled to push this through, then turn off the lights at 9 p.m. like you afforded the residents around Glenbard West practice field.
Summarize, Mark.
We deserve the same courtesy. I'd suggest that we put this out for a village-wide vote and see what the people really want. We've been told that seniors and the youth want a safe and controlled place to fill up their cars. I have not met any seniors in Lake Ellen who want this station. And where are all the supporters tonight? I'm waiting for the supporters to come up here and make their point, but I haven't heard one, so I'm ready for it. Thank you.
Carlson is next, followed by Chris Greco.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk, and thank you for listening. We all appreciate that. My name is Annie Carlson. I live at 138 South Route 53 in Glen Ellen. But I'm also the head of the Montessori school that's just one half a block away. When I was coming here a long time ago, I saw some of my own students out front. These kids are activists in training. They can't speak for themselves, so they count on us to speak for them, but also to make decisions regarding their futures. Stacy talked about this part of our town, our village, being the gateway to Glen Ellen. And I think we have to really think long and hard about what we want to welcome visitors, what we want to see as we're going back into our own neighborhoods. I think what I really wanted to say, though, is that the traffic study is what really bothered me the most. I have students that ride their bikes, students that walk, students that come with their baby siblings in strollers. It just doesn't seem like the best use for this property. It just doesn't seem to be safe. Please consider the safety of these kids. They count on us to make the right decision. Thank you so much.
Okay, Chris Greco is up, and Jen Murphy has ceded her time to him, followed by Jerry English.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. In some of the meetings I've attended, one of the themes or words that we've heard around this project is adequate and good enough. If this is the board standard, I wonder why we have so many empty storefronts downtown and downtown projects that haven't moved forward. The case for the gas station has been the tax revenue and desire from Glen Ellen residents for a close and convenient place to fill up. On the tax revenue side, we know the $140,000 is a made-up number. Once you factor in the empty storefront where 7-Eleven once stood, other cannibalization of nearby stores, and property value reductions, the number is much, much smaller and likely negative. However, even if you assume that the village's projection is accurate, it would only generate $2,800 annually in tax revenue between the hours of 12 and 5. This is based on the actual data for this intersection that so only 2% of the traffic, or about 700 cars, will traverse that intersection between those hours. You'd have to assume that the revenue is somewhat proportional to the traffic that crosses. As a point of comparison, North Avenue at Glen Ellen Road has about 5 times as many cars that pass that overnight. So there's a lot more traffic there that justify it. Further, 24/7 has nothing to do with the Glen Ellen residents looking for a close and convenient place to fill up. At a minimum, I urge the board to limit the hours as part of any variance approval. As for the landscape plan, approval of this project, which ironically is on the same day the village read a proclamation on saving trees, would destroy a 100-foot forest that has been there for a long time. This forest serves as a buffer to the residents to the south and southeast and would be replaced by a handful of trees. If you look at the map, there's a huge gap where the green forest is, and now there's a few scattering trees, and as Diane pointed out, some nice shrubs. My view changes from a forest to a 24/7 illuminated canopy. Clearly, no buyer would look the same at my house once a gas station towers over it. As for the proposed dimming at midnight, why not 8 or 9 p.m.? It is a residential neighborhood after all. The gas station is simply too big for the property and the village to deem that the landscape plan is inadequate and demand a smaller station with a greater buffer. On the topic of the variances around the traffic and the traffic risk, again, I think that the traffic study is wholly inadequate. We pointed out earlier that the pedestrian counts are were during the winter. Now, I submitted some of my concerns to the village around the traffic. I do appreciate them taking a look. However, I didn't see anything that changes the underlying conclusion. The Federal Highway Authority has data showing that increasing the density of driveways increases the incident rate. It also cites that 72% of the driveway crashes involve left turns. District 87 has designated this intersection a hazardous zone. Considering these facts, what has True North provided to prove that this is safe? On the Main Street left out, why have we not demanded a sightline analysis from True North? My analysis says the driver would only be able to see 335 feet. The village states, but didn't show any diagrams showing that they would be able to see the full 375-foot intersection sight distance. They also reference that observed speeds are closer to 30 miles an hour than the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. Was this 5 minutes of observation, 2 weeks? Where is that data? A 35-mile-an-hour design assumption would increase the intersection sight distance to 436 feet, which is outside the view of a left-turning driver. Regardless, the village's traffic consultant noted that queued cars will block sight lines. While he states that left turns may be self-regulating, there is no guarantee. Since restricting left turns may impact the viability of the store, he recommended the village monitor the situation and they can change in the future. Is that another way of saying we hope someone doesn't die or get hurt, and if they do, we can try to change it? Why are we not demanding that True North prove that this is a safe turn? Is $140,000 per year the price we put on safety? As for the left turn off St. Charles, I continue to believe that left turns into the station from St. Charles are not safe. Interestingly, all of the designs that the village had previously prepared show right in, right out on St. Charles. Maybe they knew something. The one and most critical piece of my analysis that neither the village or True North have addressed is the fact that there is no margin for error. During the Planning Commission, I spoke that until you are within 30 feet of the turn, you cannot see beyond the crest of the hill. This is based on True North's sight line drawings, as well as my experience driving that stretch on a regular basis. 30 feet is a second or two and not enough time to make safe decisions. This will lead to an increase in rear-end collisions and side impact accidents. On the topic of how trucks will move through the site, the village has concluded that delivery trucks will need to back up to safely exit. While not a requirement, it is indicative that this project is over-designed. Further, neither the village or True North has addressed the fact that a left turn for a delivery truck will be much slower than a typical turn because of the secondary maneuver and interference from customers. The potential for one to get stuck in St. Charles should not be discounted. Given the era of distracted driving, the village is setting the public up for tragedy. The village is not obligated to grant these variances. True North carries the burden of proof that they are necessary and do not put the public in harm's way. They have failed on both counts. Gas station or not, this project is over-designed. Do the right thing and send it back to the drawing board. Thank you.
Jerry English is up, followed by Megan Clifford.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jerry English, and I live at 756 Chittister, and I've been a Glen Ellen resident for 18 years. And I think one of the great things about Glen Ellen is our sense of community. And we've seen that here tonight, and we saw that on Saturday at the Earth Day celebration. And we also saw that this morning, or earlier today when we talked about Arbor Day, we had a declaration of the visual beauty of Glen Ellen. And the village trustees have a unique opportunity here to determine what the gateway to Glen Ellen looks like. Will it be visually beautiful, or will it be an overbuilt gas station? The gas station is too large for the site. It's too large for the site because these variances have been requested. The 20-foot versus 25-foot curb return on Main Street. It was dismissed as, well, that's just an engineering. Yeah. But the reality is, if the site wasn't so large and we didn't have turns onto Main Street, we wouldn't need the curb returns. So I would petition to eliminate the curb returns, eliminate the turning onto Main Street from this from this site. The other observation was, oh, we need parking space variation. Well, if the convenience store was smaller, you wouldn't need a parking space variation. And so I think this is overbuilt and doesn't belong there. Now if we go into 24/7 operation, if we look at the overnight hours, it's going to be less than 20% of your revenue. And people before me have already done the calculations. At $140,000 a year, 28,000 people, comes down to less than $1 a person for the overnight hours. Are we willing as a community to have lights shine in our neighbors' yards? They won't shine in my yard, but it's the community aspect of Glen Ellen that's so great. So I urge the board and the trustees to vote like they did with Arbor Day and decline the petition for the curb return, parking space, driveway, and sidewalk variances for tonight. And in closing, we heard many arguments about, well, 7-Eleven has 24-hour operation. 7-Eleven doesn't have a canopy. Would you be willing to trade a canopy for 24-hour? Walgreens doesn't have 24-hour operation. And so sort of some of the situations were cherry-picked, and I think it really comes down to, do the trustees represent business interests, or do they represent the community of Glen Ellen? Thank you very much.
Megan Clifford is up, followed by Peter Clifford. Megan has had Susan Grady, whoops, hold on a second. No, Jessica Buttimer and Steve Shawnee, defer their time to her.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you this evening. It's really hard for me to be here tonight and hear about limestone and shingles and sound attenuation walls, because the matter of the fact is, benzene doesn't care about sound attenuation walls. It doesn't stay within those walls. And we keep arguing over distances between this gas station and Forest Glen School. There are homes right next door to this gas station with people living in them. Before you approve the special use permit, I sent you 3 letters about the health and safety risks, especially to our children. I would like to share some of the scientific facts that I shared with you in those letters. In my February 23rd letter, I cited a 2011 American Journal of Public Health that said, quote, increased risk of childhood leukemia was found with residential addresses near gas stations. In a 2015 study, results in an occupational environmental medicine publication, it highlighted, quote, an association between acute childhood leukemia and dwellings neighboring gas stations, which are benzene emitting sources. Then on March 12th, I sent a letter to you. And I said, in absence of a risk assessment, I analyzed an existing report, a comparative qualitative risk analysis of motor gasoline as an automotive fuel that provides a basic assessment of benzene from delivery through refueling. This is just for delivery through refueling. A relative risk assessment can be performed using this information. So since carcinogenic risk associated with benzene scales linearly with concentration, then it can be assessed that increasing quantity of gasoline pumps will lead to an increase in the air concentration. More pumps equal greater airborne benzene concentrations associated with the gasoline itself and any benzene emissions from the vehicles at the refueling stations. So, this is a whole letter about this, but I'm just going to give you the one bullet I put in the letter. A first order of approximation would suggest that a facility with 12 pumps pumping the same amount per pump compared to a facility that had 2 pumps, because everybody likes to say, well, there used to be a gas station there. So just let's say that old gas station was still there, but we're putting in a 12-pump gas station. The cancer risk is approximately 6 times greater. That's a 600% greater risk of cancer. But it's even higher than that because there is no gas station there today. I requested in my letter to you, and on March 13th, when you voted on the special use, that in your elected role, you really maintain the health and safety and welfare of the citizens and deny that permit and don't put our children at greater cancer risk. But here I am today, feeling that the burden of proof has been levied on us, the residents, rather than True North. So I had to use my rights with the Freedom of Information Act to get some facts, and I wanted to share the top 5 facts. So the first one is, I heard True North saying they've been involved in this process for 15 months, and I thought, why did I get the letter to my home 2 months ago? Why didn't I know about this? So I FOIA'd. I asked, can you please provide all copy of public notices about rezoning of the parcels? Can you please provide all public notices about the sale of 825 North Main? For the first item, nothing was provided, and for the second thing, it was listed on an agenda, but there was no mention that it would be sold to a gas station. Then we asked about the financial analysis, thinking this must be the reason that the board is voting for this. What is the reason? And it must be the 140K, so we wanted to see how the village board came to that analysis. None was provided because there was a citation about this section 11. So my husband built you all a financial model, and he'll review that tonight. Again, burden of proof on residents. In the March 13th meeting, the village provided FAQs saying that the proposed gas station would have minor impact on the existing roadway network. And the village provided me a copy of that traffic study that I had to FOIA, which does indicate majority, 60%, but in there says an additional 782 vehicle trips per day. My mind just could not even get around that, knowing how much traffic is already there and all the kids that walk to school. Then we heard in many meetings statements made by the village trustees that residents are in support of this gas station development. And the agenda packet tonight includes an equal number of letters of support and letters in opposition. So I FOIA'd this. I actually FOIA'd it twice. On April 4th, the response I got was there were 6 residents in support of the gas station. I'm still waiting on an overdue FOIA response for the recent count. But as Jessica Como stated, the petition has 1,156 signatures in opposition, and we have 359 comments of that petition that I asked to be made part of the meeting record. And last but not least, through the IEPA FOIAs, on October 15, 2013, the village received a no further remediation letter from the IEPA for this site. The NFA only addressed on-site contamination and is focused to a limited set of contaminants of concern. Off-site contamination has not been addressed despite the village's knowledge of the impacts and potential risks. The village ignored prior data which showed higher concentrations at the property line. If the village had used that ignored data, modeled contamination extends approximately 150 feet off-site. This would be within the minimum setback of a well that's located approximately 250 feet north of the site. So, with that, you as our elected officials can get out of this. You're not in a contract. This is a handshake deal. You have the power and the control to walk away, and we ask that you walk away. And if you don't walk away, Mr. Lydon, I beg you to walk away. Please. We don't want a gas station in our neighborhood.
Okay, Peter Clifford is up. George Smith and Kristen Front have ceded their time to him, and C. Jane Thomas will be next.
Don't worry, I won't need it all. I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to speak tonight and the work that you guys have done in the past to ensure that Glen Ellen remains the jewel that it is today. I appreciate that you guys have difficult jobs and you have very difficult decisions to make in your role at times. This, however, is not one of those times. This should be the easiest decision that you have to make as commissioners. Each individual environmental, health, and safety issue raised by residents in this process should be enough to disqualify this opportunity in its own right. I, however, wanted to address another facet of the issue. Whatever scant support there is for this project seems based on expectations for increased tax revenues. While it's the board's duty to consider all opportunities for economic development, it's fairly obvious that those expectations should be tempered substantially. First, in the absence of independent revenue projections and economic impact studies, the village has thus far been basing this decision entirely on a revenue figure provided by True North. No third party was ever engaged to provide input. We put the fox in charge of the hen house and simply took True North's projections as gospel. The extent of those projections, by the way, was a 2-sentence email that was a response from an email from the village board simply inquiring, how much do you expect to sell? Never mind the number's integrity, it's simply unrealistic. The $7 million figure in annual sales would equal roughly $20,000 a day. Comparable sized stations on Roosevelt average just over half that amount. About 35% more vehicular traffic passes those stations daily. If we go ahead and discount that proportionately, we go from 140 down to 91,000 in tax revenue. True North's assumptions are based on fuel prices 15% above the 2-year average price of gas. Discounting that again, we get down to $77,000. Chicago's a premium market for gas, but we'll call it a push because convenience stores can only succeed when the people for whom they're most convenient patronize them. I know about 1,150 people that live in the vicinity, and Jill said it well, that will absolutely not shop at this store under any circumstances. The store will pull heavily from, this has also been alluded to tonight, the store will pull heavily from similar businesses in the area. Walgreens, 7-Eleven, Dairy Queen, Papa Savario's, the liquor store, which I assume has a name other than just the liquor store, but that's what everyone calls it. It's pretty self-explanatory there. They all offer overlapping comparable services. BP and Shell will also see a reduction in their business, the two mega stations we have on, I don't know if that's a proper industry term, but the 2 gas stations of comparable size that we have already on Roosevelt Avenue. This doesn't create new revenue, as someone already said. It simply pulls it from existing businesses. Let's knock off another 25%, and we're down to under $60,000 in tax revenue. By True North's own admission, Ryan mentioned this at the last meeting, each variance, he used the term sacrifice, that's requested and granted further erodes sales at their locations. There have been many, I think I heard the number 33 dozen or so, I don't know the exact number, that have already been requested and granted, and obviously tonight's agenda includes a few more. Each one of those granted in the process erodes the revenue, and there's more to come. Expect additional adverse impacts to that revenue. So what are we really looking at here? We're looking at a figure of less than $60,000, best case, to be added to the revenue. That's good for about 0.1% of the overall budget for Glen Ellen in 2017. It's incidentally also comparable approximately to the amount that the people in the room have spent on babysitting over the last 2 months as part of this project. Actions have reactions, and decisions have consequences. The financial reactions and consequences here will impact the area's homeowners. Experts weighed in and stated we could expect to see our home values drop by up to 35% within the quarter-mile radius that we considered. Next up on the chopping block will be the village itself, who will suffer the consequences in the form of proportionally decreased property tax revenues. Financial consequences of placing the station at the site are at best eye-opening. More likely scenarios put the negative impact to home values at approximately 25% decrease. And it's not only the village general fund that will suffer. The pain will cascade to the library, the park district, the county, the township, and most impacted of all, the school districts. And I don't pay attention to the news much, but I believe there was a recent referendum that put in a significant additional burden on D41 specifically. One huge reason people moved to this community is because of the schools. I know when my wife and I moved here, that was our #1 consideration. D41 and D87 will be bearing the brunt of this. So not only are we putting the health and safety of our children at risk by allowing this to proceed, we're also risking their academic well-being. Reduced revenues will jeopardize the school's ability to carry out their missions, both of the school districts. It'll make Glen Ellen a less desirable place to live, and will perpetuate the death spiral of property values and corresponding tax revenues. There's still time to do what's right. Revoke the special use permit. It's squarely within your rights, your abilities, and your obligations to the residents here tonight, and not here. We can find another use for this land that actually benefits the community. Thank you for your time.
CJ Thomas is up, followed by Mark Purvis.
My name is Jane Thomas. I've lived here since 1982, and I'm 68 years of age. I've asked every senior I know in the village whether they want a gas station on this corner. I'm very sorry, True North, but I do not know of a single person who wants this gas station. I am very concerned because this is my 4th issue that I have come before the trustees. And in the past, I have seen the trustees do what was right, to listen to the people who were protesting or making their point. I am very concerned that the Board of Trustees here is not listening to the people of Glen Ellen as they have in the past. I beg you, because of the children in my neighborhood, I live at 531 Maple Street. Sure, I don't see this gas station. I'd go past it. I am a home economist by trade, a master's degree in special education. Like True North, I'm a 3rd-generation educator. My family has been in the United States since before the Revolution, the American Revolution. Again, I am very concerned that you all are not listening to the people. I was told at the last commissioners meeting that I attended that there were people out there that wanted this gas station. I understand how to do action research because I was an educator. I started asking everyone that I knew, do you want this gas station? Are you coming to the meeting on April 24th? Because I told the people that I knew that didn't want it that they needed to pack the house. It's late. It's past my bedtime. I'm 68 years of age. It's 11:30. They packed the house. And still, I get the feeling that you are not listening to us. I beg you to listen to us. Thank you.
Purvis is up, followed by Claudia Brown. Is Mark Purvis here? Okay. Claudia Brown, I have been told, is no longer here, which brings us to Joe Abel. And the following have ceded their time to Mr. Abel, and that would be Ann Abel, Barb Lemmy, Hillary Fife, John Frank, Donna Olson, Kelly Kalinich, Andrew Linder, Zach Wilson, Patrick Dan, and Troy Hamilton.
How about Troy Purvis? He left.
Okay, that's who we just, Mark Purvis, we just called.
I didn't say that for my home.
I don't think I have any. So which one do you want to start?
Probably told him to get some chocolate bar or something. No, I'm fine. I made that request specifically, and that's something you should consider in the future.
I'll wait for the chairman.
He's asking a clarifying question, that's all.
Are you ready, Joe?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Joseph H. Abel, A-B-E-L. I live at 200 Forest in Glen Ellen, Illinois. I've resided there since 1970. I
Try
came
to
in-
adjust the mic a little bit, because the people in the other room will hear you better.
Good. Thank you. I moved to Glen Ellen in 1970 when I was hired to be the head of the DuPage County Regional Planning Commission. I served in that capacity for 17 years. After that, I was head of the Economic Development Commission for the City of Chicago for 5 years, and then had my own firm since then. So I'm well-grounded in planning, zoning, and economic development. I'm going to start real quick with the comprehensive plan. That's my degree is in city and regional planning with a minor in architecture. And I've been recognized as a leading planner in the area. I've been president of the American Institute of Certified Planners, and have been in many organizations and worked with numerous communities. I think I stated at our very first meeting that I was really disappointed with the respect that was shown to the Plan Commission and to the Architectural Review Commission. That led to my having to do a lot of research, and I thank them for recognizing that I came up with a lot of the standards that they didn't come up with. From the very beginning, no experts at any of the meetings, and that's one of the reasons the Plan Commission denied it, not only because it's an inappropriate use, but there was no testimony. So this idea that the petitioner has gone overboard to try and satisfy the community and be respectful of neighborhoods, I find it hard to believe. You don't come to a meeting with one person and not have your experts there at a meeting. That's not only disrespectful to the neighbors, but it's disrespectful to the commissions that we came to. And that's the reason that this has been going on and on and on, is because we've never had all the information. In fact, at the very last meeting of the architectural review, there was no idea that there was a trash container at the side of the building, because most of the plans didn't show it. And that's when I suggested that the wall should be an 8-foot wall, same material as the building, or using the sound abatement material, which I also had to do the research, give it all to the planning department, and they in turn gave it to the petitioner. So keep in mind that we don't owe anything to this petitioner. He made the mistake of trying to go through just the village board, through the staff, and then slowly but surely come before the public at public hearings. I think way too much time was spent behind closed doors and not before the public. And you're seeing the results of that. That's why everybody here is really upset with the process and has very deep concerns about it. And I can tell you, I do this all over the Chicago metropolitan area. I have been hired by many gasoline companies, shopping centers, developer, any kind of development you can think of. I've been involved in the last 50 years. And I have never been a part of a process where I didn't have the operator and all of the consultants at a meeting to present things properly. I want to start with the comprehensive plan itself. I was a little bit amazed that when Stacy got up, she read a specific paragraph from there, but there's more than one paragraph under 5 corners, not the one that she alluded to, which sort of indicated that because there was a gas station there in the past, that there should be one there in the future. The fact remains, the gas station that was there is gone. There's been the remediation. It was a very small station, and to even allude to the fact that because of that, you could put in a gas station of this magnitude is a stretch of the imagination in reading this paragraph. If you go to the very beginning of the 5 Corners Land Use Plan, and I'm reading this because as a planner, there's a reason for zoning. The reason for zoning is to implement the comprehensive plan. I prepared probably 50 plans for various communities and counties, and I always start with the comprehensive plan. And then I go to the zoning ordinance, and that's what when you decide what kind of uses will be put in each specific district. But when you go to the comprehensive plan, it's very specific. He says 5 Corners should be revitalized as a neighborhood service area, showcase for local history and attractive gateway to the Glen Ellen community. Existing businesses should be upgraded and limited, and compatible new commercial development should be promoted. The word compatible is in there and was not in any of the things that I heard earlier. When you go specifically to the site, it says, again, improve and enhance the other 3 quadrants of the corners for neighborhood-oriented retail service uses and promote improvement to existing businesses. But to now make the giant step that because of that one thing about existing uses, remember, the existing use is gone. The land was vacant at the time the comprehensive plan went into fruition. What I'd like you to do is that there's also, there was a comment regarding, a question was asked, is a gas station a neighborhood service use? Or I think you wanted a definition of what are some of the neighborhood uses. You've got the comprehensive plan that says it should be neighborhood uses and service. And someone asked, what's the definition of service? Why not go to the zoning ordinance and look and see what it says? The thing I've tried to emphasize to both the Planning Commission, the Architectural Review, and to you is that keep in mind, this is a special use. This is what aggravated me so much when you voted on this, is that you didn't recognize and wouldn't listen because of the time constraints what a special use is. A special use can be denied, a special use can have conditions put on it, and you blatantly went ahead and approved the special use without any conditions. I've never had that happen in any municipality that I've worked in. A special use is special. It's not a permitted use. And if you go to the permitted use, and I'll tell you what service use is in your own ordinance, the definition, a bakery, commodity sales, basic living needs of neighborhoods such as art and school supplies, bicycle sales and repair, bookstore, camera, photographic supply store, candy and ice cream store, jewelry, leather store, garden supply. You go on and on. It's community support services such as music and dance schools, antique shops, health spa. Service uses performed on the premises for the needs of the neighborhood, such as barber and beauty shops, dressmaking, tailoring. Your own zoning ordinance gives you the definition of what a service use is. You didn't have to ask your staff, and the staff alluded to the fact that it might include a service station. It does not. It is not one of the permitted uses. Now, keeping that in mind, I have a hard time here because I'm in an awkward position in that until tonight, when I learned that there's just a handshake deal left on this, I thought it was a done deal. I think you still have the opportunity to make this not a done deal, but that's something you have to answer as you go through this. I told the citizens in the area that I've done this 1,000 times with neighborhood groups that I've represented, and I always tell the neighbors, if we can't stop it, let's at least make it as good as it can be. Let's get a lot of conditions on there. I'm almost sorry now that I did what I did and started working on this to try and make it a better site, because it's almost impossible to make it a good site. But at least if you are hell-bent on going ahead with this, especially now that I know you have the opportunity to kill this deal because you don't have a contract. Now, I've only heard that. But if you have the opportunity, it is my professional opinion, and I stated this at both the Plan Commission and Architectural Review, it is a totally inappropriate use for this location. When we developed the comprehensive plan for DuPage County, it was a unique plan because it included all 34 municipalities. It took our staff 7 years to prepare the plan because our instruction was don't come back to the county board for adoption until all of the communities have signed off. Glen Ellen was one of the communities that we looked at, and it's part of the original comprehensive plan that we did. We came up with an award-winning land allocation model that we used to analyze all the land uses in DuPage County, the entire county, all 34 municipalities and the unincorporated area. And that land use allocation model came up with transition models. And just looking at single family, looking at the single family area that you're putting this into, there's single family entirely to the east, and there's single family to the south, and you have single family all around all four corners. The most logical use backing up to single family is townhouses. If you're gonna, or obviously single family to single family. We all know that zoning district lines have to end somewhere and make a transition. So when you're talking just transition, the model came up with first townhouses, then low density multiple family, then higher density multiple family, then office and research, and on and on. The last possible use was commercial, and the last possible of the commercial uses was an automobile service station. I can't imagine that the Five Corners Comprehensive Plan ever considered that there would be another gas station on this corner, and especially on the 3 lots. If you look at the, can we go to that aerial? Let's go to the one with the old gas station. Interestingly enough, as you look at this, you can see a tremendous amount of buffering between that existing station and the residences to the south and to the east. It would seem to me that anyone that was starting to talk about selling this property, and the board is the seller here, it's sort of like the board, this is what upset me a little bit when I first was asked to get involved in this. I said, you know, I'm dealing with the judge, jury, and executioner all at the same time. That's what makes this sort of unique here, is that you're in the position of having purchased the property, owning the property, and I can't imagine how you could have done a little more research on how successful it would be to, you know, offer this property to a gasoline service station when you have your own plan, which states very clearly that this should be a unique entryway into the community. But letting that go, I think what you should be doing as you look at this. Now I'm putting on the hat that I probably shouldn't be wearing. If I can't convince you that this is a totally inappropriate use from a planning standpoint, and I'm sure that I could get a dozen planners that are certified as I am, but also agree that this is not a good use so close to the residential. Now even throwing in the school. Usually around school, I like to use what I call traffic calming uses. A gasoline station is not a traffic calming. It's really a traffic generator, and it's going to cause all kinds of problems. So no matter which way you look at this, even if the school wasn't there, it's an inappropriate use, and throwing in the school into the mix, it's totally inappropriate. Now, if I can't convince you of that, let's go to, and keep in mind this exhibit, because I think it really shows. A number of people have suggested, why not create some sort of a botanical or some sort of a area between the working part of the automobile service station and the residences to the east and to the south. And that's what actually was there before. And that's what really bothered me when I would hear constantly, well, there's been a gas station there before. There hasn't. Only on one. It was gone, and we're still dealing with a separate vacant piece of property. The 24/7 issue is probably, if I had to put at the top of the list, the key ingredient that should not be there. Take into consideration the location of this property. It's at one of the highest points in the area. It's going to be seen from every direction. It's just there. There's no way that if you don't limit the hours of operation, that this thing is going to be a real problem 24 hours a day for all the people living. At least have the evenings be quiet and safe. I have looked into some material also on, I thought some of you were impressed by the fact that if it was stayed open all night, it would be safer. I think what I've read is that, and I think one of the people showed you a statistic, it's a lot easier for someone to run up into a car, go into the station, especially a station with a single person, get what they want with the threat of gunpoint, and leave. The fact that someone might steal a car around Glen Ellen and then run it through the front door and crash and grab, I really don't see that as happening here in Glen Ellen. But I can see, which happened a couple of nights ago, where someone would run in, point a gun, clean out the cash register, and leave. Just enough, and maybe take a little alcohol with them at the same time. But you're not going to do a crash and grab at this kind of facility. It just doesn't happen. So the 24/7 argument, I do a lot of consulting, so I come through that intersection late at night. I don't see how, I think someone mentioned at 1 o'clock in the morning you could lay down in the street there and not get run over. There just is no need for this to be 24/7, and especially since this is an inappropriate use, and it's a special use where you can add conditions. I know you've seen the ordinance, but to say you haven't done this before, it is in the ordinance that says Walgreens can only be open at a specific amount of time. And I have been involved in hundreds of ordinances that put in time restrictions. Number two, again, you have control over not selling not even part of this process. You can just say, we're not going to issue any more liquor permits, and that ends that. That is totally in your control, and you've heard that there's absolutely no reason for that to happen here. In terms of creating this environmental area to the east that would sort of push the development to the west, can we go to that next drawing? You did your own study some time ago of a mixed use, the mixed use one.
Oh, the
Yeah.
EPKS
Mhm.
one.
What's interesting to me, if you, now let's, can we get this one first? I want to go through a couple of things that, as I said, I wish I hadn't done. What I felt was important was to move the entire development to the west, to get it as far away from the homes to the east and to the south. And one of the things that I came up with was creating a 15-foot setback, which is required under your ordinance for a retaining wall. But then I found out, I was supplied by your staff, that the engineer, not going through any kind of zoning process, which is also sort of indicating, is sort of interesting, that the engineer now has set himself up, just like you're the judge, jury, and executioner. Now the engineer has set him up.
Try and get the mic back
Oh, yeah.
to your voice. So.
The engineer has set himself up as to granting variations that you never see. That's unusual to me also. So that ruled out the fact that I thought we could create a 15-foot buffer along the edge, therefore get a meandering area of nice material planted in there, take out one of the islands and create another landscaped island in the middle, and then that would shorten the canopy and make it in line with the building. That would start pushing everything at least further to the west and create a lot more landscaping. The reason I want to go now to a drawing that you or someone prepared, I'm assuming staff, you'll notice that at this point the petitioner has still only agreed to put in some arborvitae up along this building. It's an arborvitae that I did some research on the last couple days. It's a fine piece, fine specimen. But the landscape architect has agreed that it's reasonable to create a hedge along this area with that material, 6 foot on center. But for some reason where it's very important that it become a hedge, he's gone to an 8 foot, and I can only assume that is for bringing the cost down. I didn't have an opportunity to cross-examine him at the last meeting because, again, the time constraint. But I don't know if that's the main reason or not. But if you're going to create a hedge along that boundary, first of all, it should be along the entire boundary. Now, again, I asked for 15. They were nice enough to give 8 feet. I still think they could do the 15. I think you should direct them to move everything to the west, as I've shown on this sketch, creating one of the islands. Now let's go to that drawing to show that not only am I suggesting that that entire, where'd it go? Oh, that entire area be landscaped, but you can see here on this exhibit, this was done by PPK Architects. I don't see a date on it, but it shows a possible development of the property, and you'll notice that they just did exactly what I was saying, a dense evergreen hedge, 7 foot tall minimum, and along the entire eastern side. So I can understand why the petitioner didn't go along with that suggestion that I presented earlier. Also in terms of his providing some cash for landscaping on properties to the south, I think if you look at the area, you really have to go beyond just the uses. I recently did this for a developer where we were paid to go in the backyard of every adjoining property and suggest landscaping material. And that was a condition that was put on by the Lombard City Council to make sure that the adjoining properties were well landscaped. My suggestion would be I went down that block, and it should go down about 9 houses, not just 6, because one of the houses wraps around and their yard looks right at it. So no 24/7, no liquor license, extend the landscaping along the entire edge. Another suggestion that I made, and I'm not sure why it hasn't been picked up, but the 4-foot wall on the west side, that actually came from a citizen in a presentation, and I thought, why didn't I think of that? They were told that you can't go to a 6-foot. I mentioned that at our last meeting, the Glen Ellen Police Department spent 2 minutes at a variation hearing getting a height variation for their fence. So I think you should recommend, if you're going to do this, that the petitioner, before receiving occupancy, appear before the zoning board and ask for the variation to make that a 6-foot fence, not a 4. 4 isn't going to do anything with that big delivery truck. That's where, especially where it's needed. And I was glad they came up with the idea of wrapping it around, but it really should be a 6-foot fence. I think that really covers it. I think you have your own planning studies that show that there should be more extensive landscaping along that eastern edge. I really do believe you should do everything you can to move the operation further to the east. Eliminating one island and turning it into a landscaped island will go a long way towards softening this. But after I say all of that, and that's what I told the homeowners I would do, I would try and make it at least somewhat compatible. It still tears me up that I have to even make those recommendations, especially now that I know you have the opportunity to not be bound by that mistake that you made by not putting conditions on the special use. I got involved in a piece of property in Glen Ellen, just a single lot, and the seller told me exactly, if I buy it, here's the conditions. I want the driveway on the south side of the property, not on the north side next to me. He gave me a lot of conditions, and I either went along with it or I don't get the lot. So I think you have the opportunity, since you are the owner, to now set the conditions that you should have set even before you made him go through all this. I feel sorry. I represent a lot of developers, and this company has been gone through a lot. But they knew what they were getting into. They knew it was a special use, not a permitted use. And that always opens the door to the possibility of failure. And I've had my share of special uses that have gone down the tube, and it's part of the risk. So I don't think the neighbors should have to take a risk just because the developer took a risk. They need total protection, and the best thing is to not approve this. And then after that, I hope you'll consider all the suggestions I made, at least make it somewhat compatible. Thank you. I just have one more thing, since my time isn't up. I figured these fell to the floor. This is what the hedge that I hope doesn't have to be built. And again, this is another thing that bothers me. Why didn't the landscape architect, and I know they're good, I know the firm personally. One of the owners at one time worked with me at Carl Gardner's. But this is the kind of plant material that should be planted along that border. Now, I would have preferred it to be a meandering if I had the 15 feet with 8, and this is the same arborvitae that he's recommending. But they've got to be closer together so that as they get older, they start looking a little bit more like this, and then eventually they can be trimmed up to about 12, 15 feet high and become a total hedge. Now this is what I call a screen, but it has to go the entire length, excuse me, from in front of the building all the way to the rear. Now you've created something. But again, this has never been presented. Why do we, the public, have to come up with all these exhibits and do this? That's the choice that they made. And if they don't want to make a good presentation, then you don't have to approve this because it is special use. And that's the one fabric that weaves through this whole thing. Keep in mind, it's a special use, it's a special use. It's not permitted, and that's because the zoning ordinance never wanted a gas station to be a permitted use in this district. Now I'm through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Bendigut is up, followed by Melissa DeMarco. Amy Bendigut, are you here? Someone went and told her when Joe started. Do we want to put her up? Okay. I will, let's go with, there we go, yay. Okay, Amy has had Pamela Tringo cede some of her time to her.
In the other room, sorry. Impact, I'm Amy Bendigut. I've lived in Glen Ellen, just right up the street at 360 Forest Avenue since 1961, so I'm 56. Impact of a mega gas station on property values in the Five Corners neighborhood. The Glen Ellen neighbors of the surrounding proposed gas station have asked me to render a professional opinion as a real estate expert and a top producer of over 28 years in the Glen Ellen micro market regarding the impact of a large 24-hour gas station as it relates to the neighboring home values. As a professional, I have extensive experience and crystal clear understanding of buyers in today's market and what they place a value on. Installation of the mega station will highly impact these homes' resale value. It will reduce the neighboring homes' values and increase their market time to sell substantially. Buyers today have heightened senses. Buyers are keenly aware and concerned about their home's locations and surroundings when making a huge investment for their family's future and highly emotional purchase such as a home, their largest asset. Buyers have access to information at their fingertips now, thanks to Google Earth and Zillow. The tech-savvy buyer is a super sleuth before they even get in the car to go visit homes. As armchair shoppers, they're scanning for homes they're interested in and candidly looking for reasons to eliminate a home from their search to narrow the field. The effect of the property values in the homes surrounding the mega station starts online. You're giving these neighboring homes the kiss of death by installing the mega station. Once these buyers are at the homes, if they make the super sleuth cut, the buyers will then experience increased noise, the minimized tree buffer, visual concerns about the 24/7 lights, and the transient customers, as well as health concerns. A home that is adjacent to, down the street, backing up to this mega station will have a lower value than one that is not near a gas station. The homes closest to the gas stations can have their values reduced by as much as 25 to 35%. Let that sink in. Someone just told you your home was now going to be worth 25 to 35% less, not recoverable, absolutely out of your control. There's not a fence tall enough to disguise a mega gas station you back up to. Gas stations don't belong near single-family homes or any home. Besides creating additional noise and site pollution, potential gas runoff and traffic congestion, safety concerns for our children in the grade school, and a transient customer base, especially if it's open 24/7, gas fumes are toxic from both filling tanks and idling, toxic to the neighbors, and a turnoff to any potential buyers. Gas stations in neighborhoods do greatly affect neighboring homes' values negatively, affects the resale value and marketability. Again, gas stations do not belong in a residential area. Please rethink this. Thank you.
Okay, Melissa DeMarco is next, followed by Susan Cristiano. Melissa has had Joe DeMarco, Julie Spiller, Margaret Salyer, Christina Lindahl, John Duckworth, Richard. Do we have Richard Salyer twice? Wait a minute. Okay, no, we do not. All have deferred their time to her.
I do not think I will be speaking for that long. My name is Melissa DeMarco. I live at 784 Chittister. I am also the co-president of the Forest Glen PTA. My counterpart spoke earlier, but I will remind you all, as some time has passed, that we did vote unanimously and en masse to be, as a PTA, against the development of a gas station at Five Corners. I wanted to speak about the traffic study and also to counter what our chief said earlier about nobody walking at Forest Glen. We have a healthy sized population that walks to school year round. In the nicer months, that probably doubles. The homes that are north of St. Charles on both sides of Five Corners do have the option to be bused to school because Five Corners is dangerous. But during the nicer months, I have friends that live over there and they walk to school as a neighborhood, lots of kids. We also have the unique situation that we have people that walk part of the way. So when it's drop off and pick up, the very neighborhood that's going to be affected by this gas station is also sort of inundated with extra cars, and people are walking on all four corners of the Elm and Main Street light. During the full day drop off and dismissal, we'd have someone that the police provide as a crossing guard. But during our midday, when our kindergartners our morning kindergartners go home, our morning preschoolers go home, and then 20 minutes later, our afternoon preschoolers arrive and our afternoon kindergartners arrive, there is nobody at the corner of Main Street and Elm Street to help with any crossing of the street. So in light of that, and in light of the fact that the traffic study that was done does not include Forest Glen, I am urging the village board tonight to delay voting and approving on this until a proper traffic study, including Forest Glen, can be done. I also think that a proper traffic study would maybe have implications regarding the left turn out on Main Street. The traffic study that you did do highlights that one of your peak times coincides with our arrival at school. So I think a proper traffic study needs to include the school to make sure you giving them permission to turn left out of Main during that time, it does not provide a safety issue to our school. And I hope that you would be proactive and not reacting and reactive in protecting our kids. I would like to add, I'm sorry, it's very late and I'm very tired. Just as a resident and someone who lives on the end of this community, when I moved here from the city, I moved here for the quiet. And one of my favorite things about Glen Ellen is that it goes to sleep at night. And I know that the people that surround me also feel that way. So I, just as a citizen, would like to request that you reconsider the 24/7 as well. Thank you.
Susan Cristiano is next. Stacy Zagoritz has ceded her time. John McKelly is next.
Okay, my name is Susan Hepner Cristiano. The reason I say Hepner, some people know me by that name. I'm a lifelong Glen Ellen resident. I went to Lincoln, Hadley, and Glenbard West. I now live over by Five Corners. I'm at 588 Maple Street, and I have 3 children that go to Forest Glen, and we do walk to school. We often walk to the 7-Eleven as well. I have great concerns about this whole project, and I oppose it. But what I wanted to speak to is the 24/7. There is no need for a 24/7 gas station running and having services or selling liquor, selling beer or wine, selling gas from 12 until 5 a.m. There's just no need. likewise, I've gone through that intersection late at night or coming back from a trip. It's empty. I don't know where they're going to get the traffic to support them. And if they really think that they need that overnight revenue to sustain them, I think they're in the wrong neighborhood. And it is a neighborhood. One thing you should consider is that down on Geneva Road, 1.6 miles away, is the 7-Eleven gas station near President Street in Geneva, and that is in an outlot of a shopping mall. It's not in a residential area. There's also the new Shell Circle K, which is on Schmally Road and Geneva, and that it's just gone up, and there aren't houses right next door to that. There was a Baker Square that they took down, and all four corners there is shopping mall and also other restaurants. And then there's also, as people know, the Speedway, which if you really want gas at 2 in the morning, you can drive up there. They really do, from Gas Buddy, have the best prices. Finally, there's a new mobile gas station, which I found interesting when I looked online. It's where the 602 North Avenue, it used to be a restaurant bar, and they just put a new mobile. But their hours are 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. They shut down. That's Glendale Heights. I don't know why they have that restriction. Maybe Glendale Heights, maybe it backs up to homes there, which it possibly does. I haven't looked at it closely, but they are 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So their lights turn off, and they are not, I mean, they're brand new. So they must have done some research, and they're on North Avenue. They're going to get the traffic during the day. I think that's a better suited spot for this mega station. I really don't believe that a residential area at the entrance to our town, which you spent so much money with Stacy Tavern, bricking in the sidewalks, making it beautiful, remediating the soil after the old gas stations have failed, and to make it more of a welcoming area to our town. It's an entryway. I'm surprised that the Historical Society gave their okay to changing this gas station to make it more antique-y or unique. It's still a gas station. It still has its issues. And so I seriously, if anything tonight, consider the 24/7. That is something you cannot give into. I mean, there's no need for it, and I don't think that they will succeed if they, think that that's going to make them money from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. It's not. Thank you.
I'm sorry, can I just clarify something, please? 'Cause you said that the 602 North Avenue
Yeah.
mobile was 9 to 9?
That's what it says on their
Yeah, it's
website.
Pizza only, it's 24/7, just so you know.
Okay, well.
I want to clarify that.
Okay, well,
Okay.
it said on their website.
Yeah, 9 to 9 pizza.
It does
You
say
can't
that.
get pizza before.
does say
Okay,
that on there.
all right.
But you can get gas.
Okay,
and
well,
convenience
I
at
stand
24/7.
corrected.
Okay,
But there
just
is gas stations within 1.6 miles
Just
of
checking,
everything.
guys. I like to check facts. It's facts, yes. Bucky's mobile. There's a house right behind it, guys.
McKaylee, okay.
Let's
on.
keep on task with the public comment.
John McKaylee is next. He has had Madeline DeMarco cede his time, followed by William Morgan.
John McKaylee, 548 St. Charles Road, Crossland Park. Probably a week or two ago, I thought this was a done deal. You guys had driven so hard towards this goal of getting your gas station in. But after listening to all the residents tonight, I'm really struck by the deep well of concern and sincerity from such a broad spectrum of the community. The unanimous mass vote by the Forest Glen PTA to oppose it. The residents from every part of the village and all sides of any spectrum you want to imagine, just unanimous in opposition to this. Earlier tonight, I heard a number of trustees say it's not our place to tell you how to run your business and to waive off any concerns about the variances you're going to grant tonight. And that's what propelled me to speak this evening. To hear trustee after trustee say it's not our place to tell you how to run your business. I'm going to grant this variance because you need it to run your business. It just blows me away. The variances that they're requesting are to grant exceptions to rules that prohibit the very activities that they're asking for. and you just wave your hands and say, well, if that's what you need to run your business, you got it. That I don't think that's the proper start or end point for consideration of a variance to grant an exception to a prohibition. I don't think anybody thinks that this gas station is a good idea in any way, shape, or form. I think you guys are starting out a long path. I think it's best to kill it early. You've seen a number of speakers lay things into the record for the subsequent lawsuits that are to come. This is going to cripple your administration, Trustee McGinley, when you become president next month. You're going to be dealing this for eons. And for what? To leave a legacy of a gas station? And to harm property values? To depress the value of that people put into Forest Glen as an entire neighborhood and community? I mean, people are just going to wave it off and say, you know what? I don't need my kid exposed to this. And is the realtor supposed to come up and say, hey, you need to talk to this person because they're not going to buy this house, or they don't want to live here. Can you explain to them why they're wrong? They're not. Nobody's going to reopen the record and see some argument from Trustee O'Shea again and again and again on why this is so good for us. It's not a good thing. You really have a chance here to avoid an epic embarrassment and to listen to the concerns of the community. And I really beg you to take this opportunity to change your minds that you have indicated lean towards approving all these variances. I'd also mention that Naperville doesn't allow alcohol sales for gas stations. That was something that was in the news in February when they denied it to True North's application to get a liquor license for a gas station in Naperville. True North can't get a liquor license in the city of Naperville. And you'll grant it to them here because, you agreed to it a year ago when you sold the property. I'm sorry, I'm not a good public speaker, so I'm a little nervous. Couple of things that I heard this evening and I'd like to briefly touch on. The weather on that day for the traffic study, it was freezing, 13-mile-per-hour winds, gusts of 25 miles per hour. Snow was on the record, and visibility was 8 miles. Curious about what 8 miles of visibility is. I read that when the average visibility is 8 miles, deaths each year can be associated with poor visibility. Visibility normally is about 19 miles. So it was not a good day to be out walking. So I don't think you have an accurate record of pedestrian usage in May, June, August, September, October. The fuel storage. They mentioned upwards of 3,600,000 gallons of fuel going into that place. They've got 30,000 gallons of tanks. If they're just able to empty all the tanks for regular mid-grade diesel all the way to zero and be as efficient as possible in order to put 3,600,000 gallons back in the ground at 30,000, you're talking 120 deliveries. That's a lot of trucks moving up and down that road. And they probably will go the most convenient route. If that's Roosevelt to Five Corners, it's Roosevelt to Five Corners. There's a lot of gas stations around. No one's mentioned tonight the discussion that's happening on the peripherals about a gas station going in at 355 in Roosevelt. That's another gas station. The gas station is going to go in where the bicycle store is at Swift. Actually, the interesting thing about the gas station at Swift and North Avenue was that the county board, in an unincorporated area, had several votes against granting the permit, period, because it abutted residential. So the county's as concerned about, or more concerned. Am I really that bad? Burned up? Okay. So I would point to that gas station, the one at Route 53 in Butterfield that was denied. So the county is denying gas stations, Naperville's denying liquor licenses, and Glen Ellen is acting like, I don't know, Elk Grove Village, and just whatever is good for industry is good for the city, and I don't think that's right. Thank you.
Lincoln is up, and Grace Morgan and Jim Frederickson have ceded their time. Mike Semprevino is next. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Again, Bill Morgan, 774 Forest Avenue, 600 feet from the gas station. Those numbers from the real estate agent were pretty shocking. You don't know until you start talking to experts, but you can rest assured that I'll be filing to have my assessment reduced immediately if this gas station goes in. And you can bet most of the people in this room live in that area, and we're all going to file to reduce our assessments immediately. And all it takes is a sale or two, and there goes all your gains. So anyway, let's get to the point. I'm obviously opposed, but the real question is, who in Glen Ellen is in favor of this gas station except for the Glen Ellen staff and the Glen Ellen board? We haven't found anybody. I would love nothing more than to hear from Glen Ellen residents the other side of the story. I mean, I watch CNN and Fox just to hear both sides of the story. It helps. There's nobody that has stepped up to this podium and said anything positive about this gas station. Nobody. I would expect to walk in this room and see 50-50. That's a tough decision. Half the room wants it, half doesn't. You have a tough decision. It's unanimous. We're still looking for people in support of it. I guess there's 6 letters. I think one is a spouse of a trustee. The other one is a developer, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. Who supports this project other than you and the staff? There's a petition with over 1,100 residents opposed. Residents 30, 40 tonight, every other meeting 20, 30. Hundreds of residents have showed up at these meetings. Stacy, how many residents have stood up here in favor of the gas station? Do you know? I think it's 0. I would love to hear that number. Where are those mythical people that are in favor of this gas station? I haven't seen any of them at any of these meetings. I haven't seen a petition. Where are the 26,000 residents that you're representing? I don't think you speak for those 26,000 residents. You don't. Fact is, they can speak for themselves, and they haven't. But we have, and you're not listening. Doesn't make sense. So I have to ask the question, why? Why are you not listening to an overwhelming, unanimous voice within your community? There's got to be a reason. I have no idea. Would love to find out. There was a comment made a few meetings ago. I don't believe it was fully addressed. Not that I'm aware of. And if it was, I apologize. I haven't been to every meeting. But I have a very simple question for each member of the board that I hope you would answer. I think the answer is going to be no. Seems like an obvious answer, but that's not always the case. And it may be allowed for all I know. So my question to each of you members of the board is, do you or any member of your family or business stand to gain, financial or otherwise, directly or indirectly, from the development and or operation of this gas station or any other True North or their affiliates projects in the past, today, or in the future? Should be easy. I'm guessing it's no. I would think there's a law against that, but I don't know. And you never know until you ask. And it was brought up before and was dismissed. Can you please, each of you, should be quick, just no, you're not, or yes, you are. Please? I don't know where you want to start.
Come on.
Not at all.
None?
None.
Okay. Larry?
None.
Okay.
Did you answer Pete?
I said none.
I'm sorry.
None.
Excellent. I'm glad we can put that to rest, because that was a concern that many residents that I spoke with had. So the question is, why? The other question is, and it's kind of a rhetorical question to True North, right? Why are you guys so involved in this project? It looks like the biggest hassle. Maybe this is your normal. I don't know, right? Some businesses are like this. Seems like not a lot of money and a lot of hassle, right? So there's got to be a reason. And I can speculate, and I'm going to use my whatever I got left here to speculate a little bit. My guess is you guys are looking to develop a proxy, right? My God, how many gas stations are on North Avenue? How many gas stations are on Roosevelt, right? These are saturated markets. You need to go someplace else to generate revenues, right? What a great, go into neighborhoods, right? This is a beautiful proxy for a nice neighborhood gas station in your estimation, right? So if you can develop something like this, and Glen Ellen will pass it, right? You can go to other towns and say, look, we could put a gas station in your residential neighborhood. Glen Ellen accepted it. Why won't you? You have it. It's almost a marketing write-off for you. Who cares if you lose money? It's a lost leader. You now have your trophy brochure gas station in a Glen Ellen neighborhood that you can market to everybody and use us. I don't want to be your gas station eye candy, okay? Don't let Glen Ellen be the gas station eye candy. Don't let Shell, I'm sure Shell's on board with this as well. Don't let it be us. Don't start this process. Thank you.
Mike Sempervino is up, followed by David Hucht.
Good morning. Mike Sempervivo, 22W488 Emerson Avenue. I live right behind the Walgreens. And I want to thank you all for asking so many questions of the petitioner tonight. I find it very interesting that you didn't bother to ask any of these when you approved the special use last month, but you felt like filibustering for 2 hours and making people go home to relieve their babysitters before they get a chance to talk. These are questions you should have asked at the first meeting, and I've been to every one of the meetings. I watched your planning commission unanimously say no, and then all of a sudden the tables got turned in the last meeting with them, and we were told by one of the commissioners, you guys are really gonna like having a gas station there. I walk these streets, and the neighbors want this, and you guys are intimidating the people that are for it. Give me a break. That is so irresponsible of the people that are elected and volunteer in this community. You guys shot without aiming. You could have asked these questions at the first meeting of the petitioner. You didn't bother. What is the contingency plan when this thing folds? Are they going to clean up the mess, or are the taxpayers going to clean up the mess? What do you have in the contract that protects the village for when this thing goes bad? Who's going to clean up the mess? Are they going to clean up the mess, or is the village going to clean up the mess? No one's answered that question. I walk my kids to school sometimes when I have a chance. They go to Forest Glen. It is like taking your life into your own hands, crossing that street in the morning. That traffic study is bogus. And if you came to the protest, you saw how busy it is over there at 5 o'clock. There's no way anybody's going to get out of that parking lot alive. The $140,000 you guys make from this deal, I hope you buy another ambulance with it. You're going to need it because there's going to be more car accidents. And I want to touch on that for a second. People in this room have tried really hard to find data on deaths at that corner, on accidents at that corner. I know of one for sure in 2013. Okay? It's not easy tracking this stuff down, guys. We shouldn't have to. The police, the fire department, all that stuff comes right to you guys, right to the village staff. You know how many accidents have happened there. You know how many deaths, how many ambulance calls. You know. We have to go looking for it. It's a dangerous intersection. For some reason, you guys think this is going to be a good fit. There are people out there sweeping up broken headlight glass. There are ambulances coming. The Walgreens marquee got run over by a car, and the solution the village had was to put a light pole in front of it to avoid that from happening ever again. People stand on that corner to cross the street. Please do what you're supposed to do here and keep the residents safe. Thank you.
Followed by Donald Dickinson.
I don't know which way to face it. Yeah, you gotta turn it this way, so we'll take that.
Kathleen, how many more people are signed up?
Donald Dickinson is last after Mr.
Yeah, my name's Dave Hecht. I live at 572 Oak Street, and I will do my, oh good, I have a time. We moved here in 1997, probably going on 20 years. My children went to Forest Glen, and when we first moved here, didn't take me very long not to turn out of our house and go to Five Corners. And I don't go that way because that intersection's just not a great intersection. So I mean, we all know that's a tricky intersection. I'm not averse to letting companies make money, and I would first think, yeah, there's been a gas station here a long time, but I guess what what made me just take note, because I do this for a living in terms of analyzing decisions, and I understand you folks have the same decisions you all need to make, is that, you know, the small, it seems to me like the smaller gas stations, probably there was one next to Baroni's and maybe where J&R Auto was and where that was in the 50s, that's what they did. But the small gas station in your artifact smaller stations that you still have in your network, that model, you know, for whatever reasons, environmental reasons or cost reasons, just doesn't seem to work. And so the gas stations that are being built today are big, like the one on Roosevelt Road, and they're built in what apparently is called something like a C3, whatever the heck that means, but I'm thinking it's like North Avenue and Roosevelt Road. And this intersection here just isn't a C3. It just isn't what this, unless that's your plan. So if that's your plan, then, you know, we need to make this look kind of like more like the Jewel, and, you know, we could do something big, but this isn't what this intersection is. It's been, and I live real close to it, and I wouldn't want it to be that way. This here's where the Jewel is, and this here is where the big old, you know, that Shell station's going, and they're putting in a whole bunch of pumps, and that makes sense. So I guess I understand that, you know, the idea of, in my head, I thought, well, they'll just put a couple little pumps here on the corner. I get it. That's not the way the model works. You got to put in your 12 pumps. You got to put in that to make the business model work. But then it needs to go to North Avenue, which does take me 4 minutes to get to, or the other one, which is 4 minutes. So I'm willing to go 4 minutes. I have that quote, and I had a couple other. And then the left turn. This is the Lambert. I got 25 seconds, but there's a BP station by the Y on Roosevelt Road, and I don't think you can make a left onto Lambert, and there's nothing. There's nothing there, and you can't make a left. And there's like I think that's to just keep the Public Works Department from being blocked or something. So, you know, I mean, it'd be tough. It's just a tough, tricky intersection. So I'll give up my time. But thank you for, and I would be obviously against, and certainly against 24/7. The only comment I'd make is that, you know, I can hear 355 out my window when our windows are open at night, and I get it because there needs to be a highway. If I can hear 355, I can hear a tanker truck 6 days a week. And I can't. I'd rather not, but I'm sure you would too.
Mr. Donald Dickinson is next. I don't see him. I think the chief has gone to see if he's in the overflow room. Mr. Dickinson?
Okay. All right, we're going to close public comment on this point. The question is it appropriate to deliberate at this point, or do we want to consider deliberations next week on Monday?
I think we're here.
I
would like
just
to
want to get the
deliberate,
consensus of the board.
I would like to deliberate.
Finish. I'm gonna move to table it again, so I would continue it forward.
You would do what?
I would move to table the vote on the variances that are in the ordinance.
There's a lot of information to process.
Wait,
so.
is that a motion? Or
Yeah, that would be a motion to,
So
are you
then-
making a motion to table?
I would make a motion to table.
Table 2 next Monday.
Yes.
Is there a second to that motion?
Wait, hold on.
we're not allowed to deliberate when there's a motion like that on the table. You either have to
Well,
second it or
he
not.
has.
There's
Yeah.
a first, is there a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
There's a first and a second?
But you were asking an opinion before he threw a motion.
Right, but the motion came in,
Okay,
there's
so
a
he can do
second. If we can have a roll call, please.
Okay, trustee Senek.
Aye.
Trustee Kenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Clark.
No.
Trustee Ladisek.
No.
Trustee McGinley.
No.
Trustee O'Shea?
No.
And we'll open deliberations. Who wants to start the discussion?
Well, you want I can.
You wanna go ahead?
I'm not.
I get my notes together.
Yeah, I'm not completely organized, so I reserve the right to come back. First of all, I wanted to address some comments, especially the one about tonight with us asking questions. That is our process. The previous meeting was simply for the special use as to whether or not a gas station could go on that corner. We were not to deliberate any of these other issues that were up for tonight. That was not on our agenda. We were not allowed to deliberate those, and therefore there is no questions being asked because it was about the concept of having a gas station, and that was the extent of it. So when we ask our questions, that is how our process normally goes. Staff presents, petitioners present, we ask clarifying questions. Doesn't mean that we don't have the information. It means we have the information and we would like to ask our questions in front of our fellow trustees so that we all have the same answers. Just to clarify that. So first off, or secondly, I guess, I should start also by thanking the residents because your involvement in the process has greatly improved this project. I know many of our communication has stated the village isn't hearing us, the village isn't hearing us. We did, we were. The staff has been meeting with the residents. Your project is significantly better than where it started. The board is in a unique position. Normally we're not supposed to be influencing the commissions before they have a chance to vote and speak. So therefore we are more silent until the commissions have done their jobs. That is how the process is supposed to go. I would also like to thank the petitioners. You've done a tremendous amount of work as well, and in hearing the residents and the staff, and what was presented to the board with the final outcome from that petition is truly something that I think looks just a lot better than where it started, and it shows that you're willing to listen. So thank you for that. Let's see. The variations that are up tonight are 5 variations on the motion. The parking space reduction, I do support that. That is something that is a benefit to the residents because it's additional green space. The fence request is a village request, and I do support that because, again, it benefits the project. The driveway approach, again, I support that. Because of the way that the driveways are set, so that was a county request. I'm sorry, that was a county request, and I approve, support that. When it comes to the left in, left out, the left in from St. Charles, I do support that. I see a left turn lane. I have been out to the site. There is a left turn lane on Geneva that cars can safely pull into that area to turn left, which is very similar to the situation of the left turn lane on Roosevelt going east to turn into where the Fifth Third Bank is before that corner. And it would be very similar to that, so when you're coming up the hill, the cars are not in the left lane, they're in the left turn lane, and that is where they would queue up. I've been out there as well, and that is where I see it. Let's see, the curb flare, I also support that because it goes with the design of the plan. I'm sorry, backtrack, the left turn out onto Main. I have gone out to the site several different parts of the day. I understand it is very busy during certain hours. The majority of the day, there's no traffic. And I do not. Yes.
We're deliberating, and I'll expect the room to allow us to deliberate. We're deliberating based on the facts as we see it. Okay. Well, you're going to stop your comments at this point, so we can move forward. Stop your comments. I didn't discuss anything. I didn't question you during your time to speak. Allow us the same courtesy here.
We've sat here through many of you calling us different names and distorting the things that we have said, so please. Absolutely. So I have been out to the site. I've actually been out with other people on staff and making left turn lanes. You have a driveway directly next to the driveway that is looking to be turned left. and there are no restrictions on that driveway. There's been no, there has been no, there have been no requests to restrict left turn lane and left turns out of those driveways that are directly next door to it. So I support the left turn out onto Main. Going back to the two additional possible amendments for the motion, I would add to the motion to go ahead and restrict the hours from 12 to 5. After listening again, going back to my list of the pros and cons and listening, it really comes down to the lights, is what it comes down to. I believe the residents will have very little viewing of those lights, but that's not something I can go back and say, hey, that's wrong. I don't feel that we can go backwards on that. So I would request the restriction on the 12, from 12 to 5 for the 7 days a week. And then, so that was the addition that I would add on to there. What else did I want to say? Oh, you know, just about the general comments here of that this project has been in with a fix. This is our process. A petitioner comes to us with all of their wants and needs and desires, and we stand up here, or we sit up here, and we deliberate, and we make our decisions based off of what they present to us. It is not a fixed and shoe-in. The special use for the gas station itself was decided individually. I know you do not believe that people support it, but there is a tremendous amount of support out there. And I know already your responses because you haven't seen any and they're not here, and therefore we should not listen to them. However, as our elected positions up here, we do have to represent the entire town. And when people approach us and say that they do support it, then we need to listen to them as well. They don't need to go on public. This is not an open debate.
Well, you're talking. Alex, we have a moment.
I'm sorry, you're out of order, and I'm not going to tell you again. I'm going to ask you to leave the room.
I understand.
Okay? Wait, but
This
is a form of deliberation. She's stating what her position is, how she sees the facts. At this point, I'm going to ask you to listen. I'm going to ask you to listen silently and allow us to deliberate effectively and efficiently in the manner that we choose to deliberate.
This is our time to answer the residents who have been speaking so passionately over the last few weeks. We have not been able to respond before this, so this is our opportunity to address some of the remarks that were made. So I am not lecturing, I am trying to explain myself. So again, there are people out there who support this gas station. And as an elected official, we need to represent all of the residents. It does fit in with the planned use. I was on the board 2 years ago. I was on the board when we cleaned up the site and we were trying to market the site. We have tried for 6 years different various ways, thinking outside the box. The village before had never previously owned and purchased property trying to control something, but market dictates what will go there. And the market is still dictating today, 6 years later, going on 7, that a gas station is what will work in that corner. Let's see. I mean, really, you know, I know this wasn't the, I know this is not the outcome that people wanted to hear tonight, but, you know, the village and the staff and the petitioners and other residents, we are listening to you. You have made this project a lot better than where it started from the beginning. And that's how I would vote tonight. So I would vote to approve the variances, and I would add the restricted hours from 12 to 5.
Point of order, there's also the exterior approval overall as well.
Exterior.
approval. The way that it is presented right now, I would approve that as well, support that as well.
I'll go next quickly. I don't have any problems with variations. These are nothing more than that we have given to other businesses in the area. I think all of them make sense. The Plan Commission approved them all. You know, you guys want to keep saying the Plan Commission unanimously turned this down. The first time, yes. Second time I went to them with a new plan after True North redid it. The Plan Commission was very much in favor of this. Architectural Review was in favor of this. In terms of my position, we have staff, professionals in the village whose job is to work with developers and identify opportunities to make this town better. We rely on them. We listen to them. Public Works, Finance, Planning. Okay, it starts with them. They put many hours on this. And if we say no, it doesn't bother me because they did their job. So this isn't something we have ramming through because we feel bad for True North. We feel bad for the staff. We aren't the experts. We listen to the staff. We listen to the petitioners. We talk amongst ourselves. We all represent different people in the community. We all represent different backgrounds. That's how it's supposed to work. That's democracy. Okay? You might not like it. That's your prerogative. Can I, please? I'm not going to listen to this guy every time. Can we remove him, please? It was him.
No,
it was you first, then it was you.
We're going to allow one more opportunity at the
Your
next.
list left out the citizens, and I will now eject myself.
Thank you. Thanks for coming and listening to us. Appreciate that. Brother. Okay. So anyway, where do we go with this? Comprehensive plan. Lots talked about the comprehensive plan. It was built in 2001. It's a recommendation. It's a plan. It's something that we use as a guideline. It's not Bible. Okay. We can use it. You can turn it around. You can say good things. You can say bad things. It's a recommendation. It's not something that we follow. We look at it. We use it as a guideline. We decide what to do based upon what's best for the village. Still haven't said whether I'm in favor or not. So you guys can all just wait for that before you start chastising me one way or the other. My next thing, I want to talk a lot about Carl Hanger's quote back in 2012. You know, I still think he believes it's a proper quote. I think it's a proper quote. But you have to remember that I've been on this board for 4 years. This property's been talked about more than once a quarter. What do we do with it? How do we do it? How do we market it? Plans. Go to PPK, have them make RFPs, put together proposals, send it to developers, send it out to businesses. This is what, guys, this property can be like. Do I want a gas station necessarily? No, I want something to go up there that's representative of Glen Ellen, that puts this property back on the tax rolls, that gets the money back to Glen Ellen that we put into this property, and doesn't sit vacant for another 6 or 8 years. That's what I'm worried about. Because if we don't do something tonight, and True North walks away, we could be in the same boat. That's no gateway to the northern side of Glen Ellen, is a vacant property with a for sale sign. I'm sorry, it's not. The green space, as far as that goes, if you looked at any one of those plans, if anyone paid any attention, okay, those plans called for, and you think this is overbuilt, those plans called for, let me give it here, potentially 3 different site plans, all of the same exact lot line. The 3 site plans could have been up to 12,000 square feet with 48 parking spaces, 11,800 square feet with 48 parking spaces, 8,835 square feet, 2 stories with 71 parking spaces. Okay? That property gets sold, something's going in there of that size. We're going to have the traffic. We're going to have the ins. We're going to have the outs. We're going to have the security issues. We're going to have problems with traffic, with kids. Whatever goes in, unless the village decides to make it a park, which would be really short-sighted for us to do because we don't have a lot of commercial real estate guys in Glen Ellen to generate tax revenue. Whether it's 60,000, 100,000, 140,000, I don't care what the number is. It's money coming into the pocket that we need. And all your statements, again, about the property values decreasing and everyone going to get tax reductions because of the gas station, we levy a dollar amount. We don't levy a percentage. So if we say we need $20 million a year to run our village, we get $20 million a year from our residents. Whether your taxes go down, your assessments go down or go up, we make the same. So this is an increase to our bottom line, regardless of what happens to those assessments and those properties up there. So that's a misnomer that you guys all need to understand how village operates and works. Same with the schools. You're shaking your head. I'm correct. You're not. That's how it works. Okay? So let's get that straight. Let's talk facts here. All right? Last thing, well, not last thing. We work on commissions, so we have obviously the board that we sit on. We work on multiple commissions. I sit on the rec commission, which oversees Village Links. I sit on the finance commission, which oversees the finance of the village. Sat down with all those commissions. We meet once a month. Every one of those rec commission and the finance commission, everybody was unanimously for this. These are volunteers. These are people in your community. These are your neighbors who sit on those commissions and do not have a problem with this gas station. I understand you guys don't like this. I get it. Okay, I know it's not ideal. I understand it. But you have to understand the position that we're in. Okay, we have to balance that. There are, this is the greater good of the village. We have to look at the greater good of the village. We can't just look at a small section of the town and say this is what's best for everybody. I'm not sure if it is or isn't, but that's what we are doing. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay. In terms of residential gas stations, Elmhurst. We all talk about it. Someone mentioned Elk Grove, which I thought was not very nice to say about one of our neighboring communities. But someone said something bad about Elk Grove. I think everyone would speak highly of Elmhurst. Elmhurst had a very, very similar piece of property like this on York Road and Lake Street, north, south, west corner. It was a steak restaurant, Andy's. Stevens, thank you. Andy's is in Melrose Park. Thank you. Closed in 2004, 2006. The property sat vacant till I think last year. They tore it down. Thornton's came to them about 4 or 5 years ago and said, we'd like to build a gas station there. Backs up against residential. It's the Northern Gateway Elmhurst. 24/7, not sure. Board was kind of not great. Didn't give them good vibes. So Thornton said, we're done. We don't want to go through this. 4 years later, Elmhurst says, nobody's taking this space, guys. Are you interested? Yeah. Gas station goes in 24/7. Elmhurst has a new gas station. I'm afraid that's going to happen here. Same thing happened in Mount Prospect. They just approved the 24/7 in the residential neighborhood. I have the articles here. If anybody's interested, I'll send them to you. They're in the Tribune. Okay. What else do we have? As far as 24/7, I'm going to listen to my other trustees. Or 24/7, I'm going to listen to my other trustees and deliberate and make a decision after I hear what their positions are there. I can see it both ways, but I do. Since I never thought this would be a 24/7 station initially, I feel that that's really the proper way to go. But I can be persuaded based upon the arguments I hear. Buffers, I think you guys did a great job with the trees and with the fences. You listened to us. You did everything that you really were asked to do. I don't think there's any problem with that. Traffic issues. DuPage Department of Transportation, as far as I know, approved the left turn in off St. Charles. That's their expertise. That's what they do. It's their road. They would say they're okay with it. I'm not a better expert than them. I gotta put my decision on that with them. Left turn out of Maine. Is it ideal? No, but I don't think it's going to cause a lot of problems. Tax value on homes. There's 9 homes that directly share a property line with that property. 3 of them have been sold since the village took ownership of that property. I feel sorry for those residents. 6 of those have not been sold and haven't been touched since the gas station was there. Their property value was already decreased because they're next to a gas station. So 66% of the properties that abut that property line, these are records, again, I'm pulling them off, public to everybody, have been owned since there was a gas station there operating or existing, at least the building. So I would think anybody moving to that area, as Amy Bendikite said, people do their homework. People paid a lesser value for those homes getting in because they're up against a commercial property or a gas station that was in it, like I said, 66%. Safe health, children, I understand, I don't want children to get hurt. I don't like the pollution, but again, I'm not an expert. I have to look at what other villages have done and other people in these situations, and there's gas stations all over residential neighborhoods. The Buc-ee's on Roosevelt, on North Avenue we just talked about, is up against residential. The one, the Mobile in Wheaton is against residential. So I can't say that there's anything more. I wish I could. I wish there was somebody who came out and said, there's a rule you can't have it next to a house. I could vote then my conscience and say, yeah, then you can't do it. But there's nothing out there but talk and ideas and potential. And I understand there's potential, but we have to make a decision. Last is conflict of interest and all the other stuff going on, guys. This has been open door. Diane left, and that's great. She doesn't want to listen to us. you all need to pay attention. These are on agendas. These are on meetings. I mean, our meetings are published, our meetings are televised. I understand you don't know. And Diane's gonna do a lot, I think, next when she starts to make these changes, so maybe you guys are notified when plan commissions or pre-planning is done, and that's great. But, you know, this is something that we all need to understand what our village is doing, and take an interest in that. So, everything has been open, there's no closed doors, we're not allowed to talk closed doors. I mean, you know, I don't like when people question my integrity. It bothers me. I have a lot of integrity. Nothing was done. I didn't talk to anybody on this board all week. Y'all think we're all talking behind the scenes and doing stuff. We're not. We're coming here, we're listening to each other, we're making decisions tonight, based upon what you said, based upon what they said, based upon what staff said. So, you know, enough. Be positive, okay? If you don't like it, be positive in the village. Volunteer, step up. I'm done in 14 days. My spot's open, okay? In 2 years, run for it. If you're that passionate, that powerful, stand up and volunteer, guys. Don't bash us. My $20 a month isn't worth it, okay? So let's just change the momentum here in town. And if this goes in or doesn't go in, you know, enough. Let's just tell the truth. And if you want to talk about things, make sure you know the facts. Call somebody before you start talking about this stuff, because a lot of this stuff is just false news. Okay? I did listen. I'm done.
John?
Excuse me? I did say the buffer. I mentioned the buffer exactly.
I showed pictures of how you could do along that entire edge.
Listen, I said I think they did a good job with the fence. They listened to you. I'm done. John.
John, you wanna go to me? Yes. All right, I'm all over the place here, so you guys have to excuse me, because I took a lot of notes. So, you know, it may not seem like it, but this is a difficult decision, I think, for all of us. We're trying to weigh what we hear from the community, I guess I'll just, not any particular order here, but the liquor license, I can't see denying a liquor license when there are 2 or 3 other liquor licenses around there. That's just doesn't seem right to do that. I'll have to agree with Trustee O'Shea that, I know you don't want to hear it, but, I proactively, I will agree with the statement that the majority of people that came were against in a public forum, but I proactively did go and talk to a lot of people. And I talked to some of you as well, but I went and talked to a lot of people. And there are people out there that do support this and do want this for our community. I'm a little concerned about someone mentioned that there were some emails that were FOIA'd and they didn't get them all. I'm assuming that's because of the April 4th date. If that's not the case, then we need to make sure we evaluate that process. I think they said they sent 4. I'm guessing some of them were after April 4th, and maybe that's why they weren't all there. I agree with the comment that, and maybe we do this, and I just don't know about it, as this is really my first full cycle in doing something like this, but we should definitely be sending out letters during the pre-application process. Sorry, guys. Okay. I know the plans that, some of these guys have been doing this a lot longer in terms of how long this property has been available. I do agree that, unfortunately, no matter what happens on this property, there are trees that are going to be taken away. I don't know that that'll change that. I guess I would, I'll throw out an idea around, since it is Arbor Day, that maybe we would, as a village, make an investment in increasing the plantings on those properties. I don't think we'll get it back to where it was, but we could certainly, as a village, just make a donation in order to improve the plantings, assuming this goes forward, to make as best of a screen as possible for the people that live there. In terms of our process, you know, I guess there are a lot of you in the community basically that made a big difference. I don't think we would have had an attenuating wall without someone bringing that out. We may not have had as much landscaping. The detention pond move, I think, was a good thing, and our commissioners gave us good input as well. I will acknowledge and hope that we improve this process, that for you guys it's really been 3 months. I know Trustee O'Shea is saying it's out there, and he's right. We're not hiding anything. It is out there. But to your point, I know this has come a lot shorter duration than the petitioner has. So we need to improve there, and I would agree with that. You know, I started evaluating this project really around 3 or 4 dimensions. The first one for me was environmental, and you know, gas station, they pollute. They're just a part of our life. I'm not an expert in that, but there are a lot of things we do that bring pollution to our community. Idling cars was mentioned, eating meat. I don't know if I'll save, you know, I don't know if we get less pollution by not having to drive an extra mile to get gas and come back. So I'm not really looking at it from a macro level in terms of environment. I try to look at it from a micro level in terms of that area. I know there have been a lot of improvements in tanks, and there's additional casing that goes around the tank. There's corrosion by being painted. There's leak detection systems. There are vapor recovery systems. There's just a lot, the catch basins. I think those all help. I did look at EPA standards, and you know, the numbers that came up for me were the 300 feet for the school, 50 feet for homes, the 1,500 feet for the tankers. Those are the ones I saw. I don't know if Megan's still here or not, but I haven't seen those studies to know, you know, whether they differ for this or not. To me, there is one environmental issue that I think is important enough, and that's the pumps on the west side of the property. Now, my understanding is that the west side of the property will drain to Main Street. And if that is the case, I would recommend that we eliminate the pumps on the west side, the one pump, the pump island on the west side, so that we don't get any drainage into Main Street, because I could see that, well, it will go into the storm sewer. If there's a big rain, that could go down Main Street, and until we fix the problem that we have behind the other buildings, that would go in the property. At least I would think it would go. I'd be fine with building the station in such a way that you could add that pump later without tearing it up once we fixed the draining into Main Street issue. So I would look to that idea for the board to consider. So that's the way I looked at it environmentally. From a safety perspective, you know, like Trustee O'Shea, I gotta trust the engineers. Our engineer looked at it, DuPage looked at it. You know, I drove it. I even drove it and videotaped it while I was driving, and then went home and kept looking at it to see if it made sense. So I have to trust them. However, the kid part, walking, I think that is a concern. So from a safety perspective, I would recommend that we limit left out of Main, but only during the whatever it ends up being, the 8 to 8:30 or 7:45 to 8:45. I would ask that we just put a no left turn during that time, and the same in the afternoon, so that when people are walking, there's significantly less risk. I would ask the owners of True North, as my understanding is it'll carve out left, that you just put a little placard there during that 1 hour, that your employee does that. The park district does that on cul-de-sacs when they don't want parking in there. It's a very easy, low maintenance, low cost thing to do, so I would recommend that we that be included. And then I really looked, so that's the safety issue for me. And then I really looked at community impact in terms of the neighbors. And you know, bottom line, we are approving variances tonight. I don't know that I have a problem with the variances. I don't. They're pretty standard variances. But I do think since it is a special use permit, that we do regulate the hours. I'm hearing some people say 12 to 5. I still think we need to give a consideration for Sunday through Thursday, or at least Sunday through Wednesday, where we would do less than 12 to 5. And then I would allow the Friday and Saturdays till midnight, and then a carve out for certain holidays. A couple other points I'd make. I think however this decision goes, I know I will commit, at least as a board member, that we will enforce what we've been asked. I know some of you are concerned about that, and as some of you probably know, I've been around that neighborhood more than I've ever been, and will continue to do so. And I think True North knows that they have residents that will be keeping a very close eye on this. So I think enforcement is on us, our responsibility. I'd like to put more trees in with a donation. I would like that whatever time we do close, whether it's midnight or 10 o'clock, that canopy is just turned off, because ultimately that's, there's noise and there's light, and I'd like to see the canopy just be turned off. Leave the lights on in the store, leave a couple lights up in the front. I didn't buy the safety argument from the articles I've read either, so I think the canopy should just come completely off. And then to the extent, that you can, again, based on the EPA study I read, the truck refilling, if we could do that outside of school hours, that would be helpful. As you guys know, in the summer, that won't be an issue, but certainly we should do it outside of school hours, so that we're not at risk of something happening there. And then, not sure what the process would be, but I wouldn't want to see that tanker go left on Main Street and head downtown. I don't think it would, just out of practicality, but make sure that that is something that you guys would make sure your truck drivers do. I'm glad they work for you, so that's an easy thing to enforce as long as they know that. And I can assure you, if one does go down South Main Street, you will be notified very quickly on that. So that's my thinking at this point.
First, I just want to extend my thanks to Trustee Kenwood for seconding my motion to table. I was starting to feel like the economics professor in Ferris Bueller because there wasn't anyone out there. From my perspective, the project has gotten better because of the community input, as well as the cooperation and willingness of True North to work to address those concerns. And I don't see any reason why we would stop that process without letting it work its way to its natural conclusion. We still, in my mind, don't have sufficient information to make this decision based on information that's in the record. I think what we've seen tonight is that the traffic study is incomplete and needs to be expanded so that we can address some of the concerns at Forest Glen. I think the issue on 24/7 operation, we've seen a desire to have it restricted. I don't know that that's based on anything more than our sort of instinct that may be the right thing to do, rather than basing that on some data and providing, as I think Mr. ably explained, if this is going to be a project that is going to go, we should try to make it the best we can. And creating an environment where this project can succeed is better than trying to create an environment where it would fail. And so deciding on 24/7 based on some information that True North has and is willing to provide seems to me to be a better approach than trying to decide this on our inclinations or on just our instinct. I'd like to see more information on economic impact on the surrounding home values. I think that has not been well developed in the information that's been provided to us. I think that's critical to the residents in the area, and I think that is an element that is needed to be proven or shown as part of granting the variance that is the subject of this particular proceeding. From my perspective, the consequences here are too great to our community to do this on less than a full record. And the information is available. We simply need to take the time to get it, analyze it, and consider it. The process is, from my standpoint, is incomplete at this stage, and True North is willing to continue to engage in those discussions, and I think we should continue to do that. I simply will not make a decision of this magnitude on less than a complete record, and from my perspective, this record is incomplete. And as I did before, I made an attempt to continue this so that we could get that information, and in the absence of it, I frankly cannot make a decision that is going to be fair to True North and fair to the residents. And so I move to table, and I'm going to vote to abstain again.
Are you moving again to table?
No, that's just
Motion. Dean?
I haven't really put pen to paper on these notes I've got, but I am probably the only adult in the room who walked to Forest Glen every day, up St. Charles Road and over to the school, past, I can't tell you, because Forest Glen was a K-4 building at the time. My kids think that there were horses and wagons in that scenario, but there weren't. The other thing I wanted to point out, people have repeatedly referred to the 3 failed gas stations at that corner. They did not fail for lack of business. They failed because the EPA came in and changed the regulations, and nobody could afford, particularly smaller stations, could afford to meet those regulations and stay in business. One of them closed down completely. The other 2 pulled out gas pumps and did other things for a while. But there's a business case for a gas station there. Whether it needs to be this gas station or not, I don't know. But I am inclined to go along with most of the requested variations that we have here. The variation on the parking spaces, that's a no-brainer to me. I mean, how many people go to a gas station, get gas, and then pull into a parking place to go in to the building? They've got plenty of space for the parking. The fence, the driveway separation, and the curb radius, to me, are all reasonable requests. In listening to people this evening, I am inclined to look at some variation of closing the station midnight to 5. I do like the idea of having extended hours for the weekends, because that's a potential greater traffic time. Like Trustee O'Shea and President Demos, this is it for me. I've got one more meeting plus a changeover meeting. But I do, and the other thing I did want to point out, it would have been better if I'd written this out ahead of time. I've heard it probably from Trustee O'Shea, I can't recall now, but I too have a great many friends who have expressed an interest in the station and not opposed to it. I've had lots of people say that they were opposed as well, but there is an interest in it. I am one of those seniors that would like to go there on occasion. If I drive my normal drive to work on the normal route I go on, the first gas station I pass is a block from my business in Villa Park. There's nothing else along that route. Yes, I could go out to North Avenue. I don't like driving on North Avenue any more than some of you don't like driving on St. Charles. But I think True North has made a valid attempt to be a good partner in this. We're trying to make a valid attempt to make this as good of a project as can be done at that location, and to accommodate as many of the interests the community has that we can. But I will be voting for that. Thank you. Pete?
I'd like like everyone else, a lot of jumbled notes. There was a lot of input that we had from you guys this evening. I think I stated earlier this evening that I grew up on Elm Street. I spent much of my young life bouncing around Five Corners, seeing who had the best deal on candy bars. Later worked at, in fact, at that time, it was a bustling business district. We had not only the 3 gas stations up there, we had an IGA. Later that became an Ace Hardware and a sporting goods store. We had the White Hen, and the White Hen survived and thrived, apparently better than the 7-Eleven appears to be doing. Then with all that other competition up at the intersection. The neighborhood up there, I mean, as much as people want to deny this, the neighborhood was developed around a business district, and this dates back to the 1840s when Stacy's Tavern was first built there. A lot of the development up there, grew, and then our central business district moved to downtown. But Glen Ellyn has 3 business districts. We have our central business district, our Roosevelt Road business district, and this is our Five Corners business district. And again, it's just pointing out one of these things. We've listened and responded to many neighbor concerns, and because of those concerns that were voiced, there were some good changes made to the project. Gas stations are necessary, but they're not necessarily safe. I mean, we all put gas in our cars unless anyone drives either, let's see, production cars that are fully electric. I think it's a Tesla, a new BMW, 1 or 2 others, and I don't think I need to take a poll in the room here. Who drives a fully electric vehicle? We're all putting fuel in our vehicles. Fuels may change over the years, hopefully for the better, but there's still going to be fuel dispensing stations, and it would be a sin not to capture the revenues that are going into our neighboring communities, as a number of you have pointed out, into Wheaton or into Carroll Stream or into Lombard or Glendale Heights. I'm the only trustee up here that's been a trustee for 10 years, and I can tell you with my hand on a Bible, if I had one, that the #1 business request that I have heard in the 10 years plus that I've been a trustee is to get a gas station at Five Corners, to replace one of the gas stations at Five Corners. I can tell you, as my 10 years as a trustee, I've never seen the type of intimidation and threats and behavior that I've seen from any opposition group, even including opposition groups that had larger numbers than yours in various development projects over the years. I hope to never see that again. I think that actually sets a very bad representation to our children. But again, as a trustee up here for 10 years, I'm just telling you about some of the history that I've seen from our residents. As many of my fellow trustees have pointed out, through this collaboration, architectural details have been addressed, lighting has been addressed, screening and fencing has been addressed, the environmental concerns have been addressed, the stormwater concerns have been addressed. A number of people, in fact, the most common word that I heard in most of my notes tonight was traffic. Any development at this site is going to increase traffic, and we can't, as other trustees have pointed out, we can't just let the site sit there vacant or make a park out of that site. When you look at economic development, you look at the highest and best use of every lineal footage of land along any given street. It doesn't make sense to put a parking garage on Main Street, Glen Ellyn, when we can put revenue-generating businesses there. It's better to put the parking garage in behind-the-scenes location, much like Wheaton and Elmhurst and LaGrange and a lot of other towns have. My point is that you have to use the highest and best use of the land. We've got almost 40,000 cars a day that go through that intersection, so we need to capture any economic development benefit that we can from that. One of the conditions that was discussed here tonight was a condition to require them to have an annual landscape plan review, and I would recommend that we time that out or sunset that after maybe 3 years. which is very similar to what our forestry department does for trees. If a developer affects or impacts a tree at all, and they put down a bond deposit for a tree, typically you can get that bond deposit back after 3 years of healthy growth. So I think if you guys establish the landscaping on the property and we sunset that after 3 years, that will be fine. And then, you know, we have property maintenance ordinances that I helped to pass in the 10 years as a trustee, and now we have teeth to enforce property maintenance ordinances. So I don't see a need for an annual landscape plan to tie our staff's hands because of that.
So are you saying you're asking for a deposit?
No.
No.
It's their own property, okay? So I'm just saying that, that once the new landscaping goes in, that we will monitor it for 3 years, and we'll make them, again, replant anything, you know, for 3 years. And after that, if the property or the landscaping dies off, we have property maintenance ordinances that regulate that. You know, what if the paint starts peeling off the building, if the gutters start falling off the building, we have property maintenance ordinances that address that, as well as dead landscaping. So having more businesses up at the intersection, just like when there were 3 gas stations, helps to drive prices down. So I think, again, that will help to have more businesses up there. You know, again, any development at that corner, particularly an office building with 72 parking spaces, would certainly drive more traffic up into that area. That being said, I support the redevelopment of this property, you know, in our North Business District. I'm hoping it will foster further redevelopment, as called out in our comp plan, and continue to foster retail sales tax generation, which will benefit all of our 27,000 residents. As far as the conditions being imposed, I do still support the 24/7. If the petitioner can still make the business work for them and restrict the business hours from 1 to 5 or midnight to 5, or maybe midnight to 5 days a week, and then on Friday and Saturdays from 1 to 5, so you're closed for 4 hours. Might give you the opportunity to do what you need to do inside the station, possibly refuel or whatnot. But again, I support the petitioner's business model with 24/7, and if we don't have the votes for that, then I would support a modest restriction.
Are you done?
I'm done. Thank you.
It seems as though the consensus is towards approving the variations. Could I ask that if that is the consensus, that we consider the village participating to an extent of at least $10,000 and also maintain the condition that we can plant in the buffer areas additional plantings if we're responsible for it. I would like to insist that at minimum we have the 12 to 5 timing restriction. I think that
I'm sorry, Alex, but did you say 12 to 5?
Yeah,
Is
midnight
that 7
to
days a
5
week?
a.m., 7 days a week.
7 days a week.
Timing restriction, and we entertain whatever other conditions. I'm sorry.
One thing to consider is the potential condition suggested by Mr. Abel, which related to the landscaping you're talking about, but it was that, I can't remember the name. The hedgerow screening thing.
Well, that's
everybody.
Well, that could be part of our,
I'm just saying
donation.
we should consider that as to what conditions we might attribute that was requested of us to consider.
I would be absolutely in favor of that, instead of the sporadic planting of ornamental trees, the planting of more of a hedge environment. I think that we can, encourage staff to work collectively towards that towards that goal. But again, it's important to me that if this moves forward, that it moves forward with the time restriction and the ability, not only for us to approve up to $10,000 in additional buffer plantings, but also have the ability to plant additionally on that property, along with the $750 per touching property.
On the dollar amount, I mean, I feel like we're just kind of picking a number out. I don't know, what $10,000 does, right? So I guess what I would suggest is we can say up to 10,000, but if we end up coming with a final plan and let's say it's 13,000 or 15,000.
Well, if we approve up to 10,000 now, and we have the ability to plant, any board at any time can continue to
Right.
work collectively through this development.
Right.
Especially utilizing trees that we could access through a purchasing co-op, like we just approved. That $10,000 would get us a lot of landscaping. So I would say up to $10,000. I think that's very generous, in addition to what's been proposed.
I mean, the purpose obviously is to screen as much as possible, right? We've got the sound attenuation, which should help, and then the screening for the light. So I don't know what that would cost, but if we can do more later, if we have to do more later, if the plan would call for more, we should have that flexibility.
It would be a considerable amount of planning, but I'd like to direct staff in the direction through the landscaping plan to move to as dense of a buffer as possible.
If I can clarify, is that in addition to the hedge? Is the hedge a part of that 10,000? Is the hedge something we're gonna ask the petitioner?
I would think that again, our contribution, listening to the residents and wanting more screening, that we would cap that as we will provide additional landscaping, addressing the concerns of the residents, which would be more screening at various site angles, up to $10,000. So it could be part of the hedge. Personally, I don't like arborvitaes that are smashed together to form a wall, because it just gets to be ugly. So if there is some variation, it looks
Loose
better.
spruces, and I'd like the plantings to allow the latitude of
That's right.
both staff and
Exactly, that's what we have, staff and a landscape.
and our forestry department to work collectively.
And
But,
preferably something that stays through the year, so that the screen remains,
Absolutely.
365 days.
So those are two additional variations? What do we want to call it? Conditions.
Which
Hour restriction, restrict hours to 12 a.m., to close at 12 a.m. and reopen at 5 a.m., 7 days a week, if I understand correctly. I mean, this is
And
just being
That
proposed.
would be the minimum.
Minimum.
I think that if they find in their business plan that additional hours are unprofitable, that they would move to be closed on those hours.
And then the second condition would be to allow village permission to plant additional landscaping up to $10,000. Is that correct?
Will allow village permission to plant additional screening and in addition approve a minimum of $10,000 at this point.
I don't understand,
That way
and
even
in addition.
additional screening, additional plantings could happen 2 years from now, 4 years from now, as well, that we would wanna have.
I assume our village attorney will word
May I
it.
suggest that, one, we can work on that language, but we should raise the condition that the hedgerow landscaping be installed, while at the same time approving contribution of up to $10,000 by the village to help the petitioner fulfill that condition. That's what they would.
I would be fine with that.
Just to be clear, this $10,000 is above and beyond what's already on the landscaping plan with the 52 trees and all that, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then can I ask that we put on another condition?
Just one second. We don't normally entertain public during the deliberations, but I'm gonna give you a
I
minute
appreciate
and
it.
allow the two of you to say something in a minute,
I
okay?
appreciate it, thank you.
It's okay. And I don't think that this, I think this is more for our, I don't know the right words, but going from trustee Kenwood, a condition that no tankers drive down south on Main Street, which I think the petitioners would not have a problem with. But it would set the precedent that we do not want tankers going in the middle of our town.
What about trains?
Well, I guess.
Yeah.
You don't want trains in the middle of our town?
Well, I'm saying, I mean, trains with gas and stuff go
Truck
through our town every
tankers?
day. I wouldn't support that restriction,
Why-
because it's hard to.
I guess if, you know, if the board won't support that as a rule, I would ask that, you know, that you guys ensure that your tankers get out of there and head north on Main and go up to North Avenue.
So our current tanker plan in advance of this project was not to utilize Roosevelt Road, come off north to the back one.
Okay,
eh,
that's what I had.
I'm sorry, but, okay. On the, is anybody willing to consider 11 on the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, earlier in the week, as opposed to midnight to 5? Or I guess, would you guys consider that?
I don't think it's appropriate to
ask them?
deliberate and negotiate with during this.
Okay, so if we're off of that, how about, because if we limit the hours, can we kill the canopy? That's ultimately what we're trying to do here, is kill the lights in the canopy. Pardon me? The canopy will go off. So we'll just have lights in the store and the lights in the, you guys are okay with that?
Lights in the store.
So I would add that the canopy is killed when it closes.
You mean turned off?
Turned off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you can't kill a canopy.
Okay.
Real quick.
I'm just questioning, why would the village volunteer to spend taxpayer money to put in extra landscaping when, I guess it was Chairman
Okay,
Burkett
you
said.
made your point. I appreciate that point. We'll discuss it. Okay, wonderful.
Okay,
This is-
it's just as a question that
Go
John
ahead.
brought up about the drainage again. Stacy, I don't know if somebody, what's it?
I said, that's
Oh,
right.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure I understand that this runoff that goes west off of the property into Main Street, is there any chance that this water can run back behind Papa Savario's and Cumin?
So when, it's gonna be the same situation as the water that goes north and ends up in the storm sewer on St. Charles Road. It's in the storm sewer. It stays in the storm sewer until it
So
gets
those
to its
catch basins run to
destination.
St. Charles.
So
and then-
St. Charles, I believe they head east, and I think Maine goes south and at some point heads east, but it stays underground in a stormwater pipe until it gets to its outflow in both situations.
Yeah, I would just hope that, I won't be around, but I would hope that during construction, if this does go through, that the village would take upon themselves to fix that drainage issue behind Papa Savario's and get that done before the station comes in, just so there's absolutely no concerns whatsoever that there's gonna be additional runoff or potential runoff from this station. So Mark and Diane, I leave that with you guys, but I will be back here fighting if you guys don't do that.
Tim, I think that's a good point, and I think, Stacy, you touched on it earlier, that there was some work that was done there, probably not permitted, you know, where there might have been that depression in the curb that was cut, and that should be addressed and make those other property owners accountable.
So the concern there, and I'm sorry, but I gotta make sure I understand it. The concern there is that last pump and the water around that last pump would drain to Main Street. Is that not accurate?
It does, just like the water for the rest of the site goes to St. Charles Road, and they both end up in storm sewers.
But if the water goes to Main Street,
And
you're
ends up
saying
in
it
storm
will
sewers.
flow to St. Charles, not?
It goes to the Main Street sewer underground. From that location, it's collected in a basin and it runs to the Main Street sewer. The balance of the property runs to
We have an engineer that knows even more than I do.
So,
I don't know if I'm authorized to speak or not.
Yes.
so are we saying the swell that goes behind the properties does not originate from the Main Street water.
Right, and it all goes into.
The sight line there, the break at the sidewalk, that water that runs there is primarily from the surfaces of two parking lots, from 7-Eleven and from Coon, and it comes together like a
So it's
riptide.
all the water there that goes back. Has
And
nothing
it's,
to do
and
with what
there's,
comes out.
I feel illegally cut the curb.
If it's in the gutter, it goes in the sewer and goes to St. Charles, but there's no drains in the parking lot, so that all the parking lot is down there.
So this is the line.
This is 7 inches
Yeah.
lower than the ridge line. Fuel spills from this car at westernmost pump location. The runoff is going to be to St. Charles Road. It's not going to go over the ridge line.
But it's going to end up just in the catch basin. It's going to come to the Main Street storm sewer.
No, it's not.
I see.
The storm sewers are running into St. Charles Road, running into the basin, but there's a hood here. Yes.
And that goes out to, right.
I'm not gonna start entertaining open questions now. I don't know if we're gonna follow through the procedure of deliberation.
It all goes to the river. No.
St. Charles Road, nothing goes to the river.
Okay. Gotcha. It's going into a storm pipe that eventually gets to the river, under,
I'm sorry, we can't
Yeah.
hear you, but
it's they all go to the storm sewer, everything on the developed portion of the site will end up in a storm sewer underground. And then goes to where all storm sewers go.
Okay.
Good.
But Trustee O'Shea, we understand your point to see if we
Thanks,
can
Mark.
fix this problem prior to the project. We'll
That'd be great.
definitely look at that.
good idea.
So the only other conditions that I think are on the table are whether we want to lessen the restriction that the petitioner agreed to with annual inspections of the landscaping in perpetuity and rather do a 3-year sunset as trustee Lattisak requested. That's on the table, and then no left turn on Main, which is what trustee Kenwood had suggested.
I had suggested it just during the
Sorry, correct.
kids walking to school time. Since we are a neighborhood school community and we do encourage walking, it was just during those 2 time slots to be defined by whenever school starts.
So I go back and forth on that. Before school and after school, there is a crossing guard there at the corner. I know they're going to be busy on the corner. But that would be, that driveway, if anyone's walking on this side, if the parents and children, they could cross, right at that corner and walk on the opposite side of the street. If they choose to walk down that side.
East side.
Right?
East side.
The east side, thank you. With the driveway, they are passing through several driveways that are right next to each other. And I, cars will not turn left if they're not able to turn left. So, I don't know, just some thoughts.
Well, the reason, they were identified as peak times, and we are increasing, I think it was 42 trips in at that time. So I thought it was.
It's 1 a minute.
Pardon me?
It's 1 a minute.
Yeah.
Can the board at any point, with the evaluation of the police department and recommendation of the school district, impose a restriction if they felt that there was a safety issue in the future? Chief Norton?
It's on private property.
I think that becomes a little difficult when you're talking about coming from private property and an agreement with a business enterprise. You're then going to limit, I can't remember what the term they use, what the term is used. Maybe Attorney Matthews can help me with this. But it's like an enterprise issue. Once a business is established, to limit their access, ingress or egress, can have a negative impact on the business. So I think those issues have to be set ahead of time.
And
You can open them up.
Legal speak, what the chief is saying is that by establishing an ordinance today, we create a set of conditions, but also entitlements, that if access is, a particular type of access is approved today, then this property owner and developer is entitled to continue that access unless there would be some change in the law, which I think the messy part, if it was to go that way, is that now do we have to compensate for a loss?
Okay.
Anyway, but
So
that's
in the
some
sake of
subject.
compromise, can I say then I would like to approve it under the condition that the board has the authority to impose 2 one-hour restrictions that coincide with school stopping and starting, if at some point the board in the future believes that that's a safety requirement. So we're approving the ability to do it, and we're giving the board the ability to be flexible with that.
A
if it's
condition or
determined
condition?
If the approach I would suggest is that we impose the condition now, no left turns, 1 to 3, or whatever, pick your hours, and give the village the leeway to remove that restriction at sometime in the future as.
Or modify it.
Or modify it as that way we would not be at risk of taking away something we've already granted as an entitlement, because it's not an entitlement yet.
It would be a good way to start too, because then people could learn, you know, I mean, they'll see the station, they'll get used to it, and if we decide to take it away, we take it away.
Well, I think that limiting hours is, you know, like that in little microbytes, it's just gonna get confusing for everyone. You know, I think that's a slow-moving turnout, you know, onto there. Most of those turnouts, as we experience, you know, like by Shell or whatever, it's, you just have to wait for the patience and politeness of another driver to kind of let you in. Those are, I think that's a slow-moving egress. I don't see any real, I don't see it necessary to restrict it. I think it's just gonna be more confusing if we restrict it for 1 hour at twice a day.
If I may, and I believe this is the traffic study that the village did,
Yes.
correct? It asks at the very end, is there enough reason to prohibit left turns out at Main? And then it answers, a prohibition against left turns out on Main will decrease the ability of the site to serve possible patrons. So in one way, we're giving them the opportunity to do business and then imposing restrictions on them that handcuff their ability to be profitable, which decreases the chances that that is going to be a viable business for a long period of time. So give that some consideration as you go forward.
I just agree with Pete there. I think it's hard. People even say that people aren't recognizing and obeying the no right turn on Elm during school hours. I think it's just another sign that the police can't enforce, and people are going to do what they want to do. And I just think it's not really, as Pete said, I just don't think it's practical.
So Pete and Tim.
Well,
I don't need it.
Not if you just put a little
Restrictions.
placard there. That's
Huh?
what- Not if you just put a little placard there that's, you know, that doesn't allow you to go through.
Like
Well,
the
who's
speed
gonna
limits,
put it there?
you
For
know,
an
the
hour.
Speed limit signs or whatever else. I just think it's confusing, but, you know, we'll see.
We can always take it away, it's worth a try.
But President Demo said if that's possible, I would agree with that. I mean, that's, if at some point in the future we find some trouble, but I don't know if we can put that in the ordinance. So if we could, I'd be for that.
I'd like to not handcuff the police with being able to impose any restriction, but I do understand the aspects. That's why I'm looking for what the applicable common ground here could be to allow us to, at some point in the future, impose that small restriction, even if it was over 2 45-minute periods in the day during 9 months of the year, if it was became a safety requirement.
And if you go by the additional vehicles expected in. Yes, okay, thank you.
And that'll last about 24 hours.
Most of those vehicles would not be turning
Why
left
don't
under
you show
Main.
that on the?
Yeah, John.
John's going to the dais.
How about an increase in school signage? Just school zone.
That wouldn't,
That's at your house?
wouldn't be
Oh,
linked to
that's
this,
your
but that would most definitely be a request that I think could be facilitated, even outside of this.
Yeah, that,
I I'm just saying if you brought it to people's attention that there's a school 274 feet from this gas station, that they'd see the signs and they would be a little bit more conscientious about possibly parents pulling away with their children in cars or children walking towards that area. Just putting it out there.
Thank you.
So if we're concentrating on those hours, which are be the peak vehicle hours, with the additional vehicles going into this station, one can also assume that these vehicles are going to continue on to their final destinations, which would be continuing going east on St. Charles or going north on Main, and therefore not requiring that left turn. A lot of this conversation here is assuming that every vehicle is making a left on Main. And at those peak hours, with additional vehicles coming in, they have a different destination. This is passing
Well,
by and
that-
continuing on.
That's why I don't think that that's very burdensome, because that's the way I looked at it, is that if I'm coming up Main, I'm heading north, I'm going in, I'm filling up, I'm probably either going back on Main north, right? I mean, I'm not gonna pick the busiest time of the day to go gas up and then go take a left, right?
Right.
Because I know that, because I live in the community. So I'll come in, make a right into the station, gas up, and either head back up Main or head down St. Charles. That's why I don't think it'll be very limiting to their business model if we just start to train people not to come in during that time and make a left out there.
Just remember though, John, that you're now, for the half of the people that are coming back home or going back town, the downtown area, they're going down to Lenox. And you're putting all that traffic back on Lenox. So that's what my concern is.
Well,
So, I mean,
and
people are
again-
probably gonna go that way anyway because
Exactly,
if
'cause
there's,
it's just
if
an
there's
easier way to
traffic at
go,
the school,
right?
they're gonna probably go that
Right.
way anyway.
It's
So
an easier way to
out.
go. This is really more about just kids walking to school is what it's about, right? I mean, we can always take it away.
But you're still gonna have people leaving the driveway, they're gonna go right. I mean, you're just saying go left. If you wanna close it down completely, that's a different story, but you're still gonna have people leaving the driveway. You're not saving the kids from having to cross an active driveway by not doing a left turn.
And don't forget, those driveways directly next door to it have no restrictions. They're
Yeah, but they're not.
1 foot away.
They're not bringing in the number of trips during that peak hour either. I mean, in fact, most of them are probably closed during the open.
7-Eleven's not, but.
Right, 7-Eleven's open, but the pizzeria's closed, the dry cleaner's probably closed, and so.
At
For the
this
morning,
point,
not the
It's too
afternoon.
much.
In the morning.
Yeah, I
too
don't,
much.
at this point, I do not support it.
Okay. Dean, are you supportive or not supportive of any left turn condition?
I don't have a problem, honestly. I think support the traffic light combinations will probably present some openings for people to get out.
Okay, so we have a consensus to not include that, let's just get back to the buffer. Do we want to direct them to alter their plan to create a hedgerow and with the additional that the village is willing to invest some of its forestry aspects in facilitating that hedgerow, or do we want to allow them to continue on with their plan and we have the ability to supplement that?
I just think we don't put any more condition on them for that. We just use that as our own, that's our decision to do. We might want to put another tree on the detention area or somewhere else or on the other side of property, or parkway trees or whatever it might be. I would prefer that we don't make it a condition for True North, but we just, again, I'm surprised that people are unhappy with us doing this, but, it's, we're trying to make the shield, and I think that's just something that the staff and Mark and Diane should decide where, and work with True North and work with the neighbors where they think the best screening for the additional money should be spent. That's my view.
Any other thoughts on that?
I agree.
Ditto.
Trustee Lassick also suggested the change to the landscape inspection. It's the only other thought that was out there. Do we want to
I'm
back off?
comfortable with the yearly inspection, and they
They've
agree
agreed
to
to
it,
it.
and there's no reason to.
Well, my
there's
thought is
no
to make,
reason to lessen that.
there's no sense to make government bigger. We already do that, so that's duplicative effort. Okay, but if we, I'm all for making them, install the landscaping and making sure that it lives. And if it lives for 3 years, then it's on its way.
Stacy, do you want to clarify that? I think the difference might be, Trustee Lassick, that we inspect for a period of time, but we don't do an annual inspection of commercial properties.
We do not right now, but we do have code enforcement. I think what Trustee Ladisek is saying is we have a variety of provisions that we could enforce should there be some maintenance-related issues.
Right.
So
Right. I
if
see what you're
there's,
saying.
you know, dead landscaping
This gives us a
or
little
there's
more
some other
flexibility.
issue that comes up.
Yeah, we already
We
have
can
the
always
laws
go
on the
back.
book, even with the buffer, if there's garbage in there, like it was, there was some video of some garbage in there, if that's on our property or now the petitioner's property, then that would have to
So-
get picked up, and we have that property maintenance ordinance to enforce that.
Correct, and so, for example, we heard through this process that there was some failings in the back of the Walgreens landscaping and fencing and buffering. And when it was brought to our attention, we've been out there and we're addressing that with them.
Like I said, I think it's duplicative to do that, and then it binds our staff then to go out to the site once a year when, you know, like many other things in our community, they're complaint driven. You know, if there's stuff that's dead there, if one of our inspectors sees it, great. If one of the neighbors says, hey, there's a bunch of these bushes that died, and we respond to it.
I disagree. I don't have any problem with making a commitment and having an annual inspection. I'm comfortable. It was a condition of approval of a project that we're trying to work through. I would be in favor of that condition remaining. I don't know
What was the condition?
No, we have to write it down.
Okay.
It was agreed to. It was something that was agreed to. I don't see a reason to lessen it.
All right.
So, yeah, I mean, if we're commenting, I actually agree with both of you. But since the petitioner has already agreed to it, I would just leave it in.
Right.
Ditto. You ready?
Yeah, do you want to make a motion then, based on all these conditions?
No, but it's my turn, so I'd be happy to. Mr. President, I move passage of ordinance number 6498, an ordinance granting approval of variations from the Glen Ellen zoning code and exterior appearance for the construction of a gas station and convenience store for True North Energy LLC to be located at 825 North Main Street. Additionally, we are suggesting restrictions for, I wrote it down wrong, restrictions for closing between 12 and 5 a.m. 7 days a week. When the gas station is closed, canopy lights will be off, and the village will contribute $10,000 towards the landscaping buffers.
I think we said up to 10,000.
Up to. I will amend it that way.
Further clarification on
For the
that.
clarification, again, we don't set a condition on ourselves to contribute money. We set a condition on the petitioner to add to or supplement landscaping with the two different types of trees, the hedgerow suggested at the hearing tonight, or are those arborvitae?
Arborvitae.
Yeah, those.
Well, don't we just take that off the motion completely? If it's just our, we've committed to it and we're gonna work with them, it's not a condition of the
Then we
motion.
want to have access to be able to plant as a condition.
Yeah.
So the condition would be to grant us an easement, an access easement agreed upon at a later time by the parties to plant additional.
Okay, then the third condition is then to have the petitioner grant us an access easement to be determined at a later date.
Well, the condition
Well,
two
it's
doesn't
been
need
by
to
the
be,
plant.
need to be in there because the village can commit up to $10,000 for manager's approval.
10,000 doesn't need to be there at all.
You're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That works.
So we have a first, do we have a second?
Second.
Any further deliberations? May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Clark.
Yes.
Trustee Kenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Ladisek.
Yes.
Trustee McGinley.
Aye.
Trustee O'Shea.
Aye.
Trustee Senek.
Abstain.
Motion carries. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Thank you very much. No, we have item G, village reminders.
The next village board meeting is scheduled for Monday, May 1st, 2017 at 7 p.m. in the Galligan Boardroom. It should be a special village board meeting. And the next village board meeting is scheduled for May 8th, 2017 at 7 PM in the Galligan Boardroom. That will be the swearing in of the new board. And a village board workshop is scheduled for Monday, May 18th at 7 PM in room 301 of the Glen Ellen Civic Center. That is all.
May 15th or 18th?
Move to adjourn.
Did I screw that up?
It says 15th here.
Should be the 15th.
15th. Not yet.
Is there a
I just
motion to
made it.
adjourn?
Second, yes, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you.